Are there aliens at Area 51?
We see this little bit of a no gesture, perks up, and he goes into that Donald Trump position of presenting.
They said, all I know, sir, is there was a round object that was going 4 times faster than my F-22.
Turned to the side and his eyes opened up just a little.
The aliens won't let it happen. You reveal all their secrets. They exercise strict control over us.
There are a lot of people that are going to examine your facial expressions here, every twitch, everything.
Tight lip. Then we see that slow blink. Okay, here we go.
I'm not telling you nothing.
Yeah, me too, hold on. Me too, hold on. If this is acting, put this guy in Hollywood movies.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by a very special guest. This is Spidey, and he is a behavior analyst?
Behavioral analyst.
Behavioral analyst. I almost messed that up. Spidey has a very successful channel on YouTube where he breaks down basically body behavior, what people say, how they say it, and he tries to psychologically sort of analyze what the body goes through when they're under stress, under duress, or when they're trying to lie or trying to tell the truth. And he basically just calls it out like it is. And I really, really like that about your channel. Spidey, welcome.
Thank you so much.
First off, you might be wondering, well, why do we have a behavioral analyst? I'm messing this up here.
No, you got it.
Behavioral analyst?
Yeah.
You know, why do it? And here's the one thing I do want to mention, that what you do isn't lie detecting.
No.
There's a big difference there.
Huge.
You want to get into that for a
Yeah,
second?
of course. Absolutely. So, first of all, lie detection isn't a thing because it's not possible to detect lies, behaviorally speaking. Even a lie detector machine isn't a lie detector machine. It's a stress detector machine. But that they still call it the lie detection machine. The biggest lie is that it detects lies. So behaviorally, what we know from the research is that, so if you look at all the studies on deception that ever happened, there are certain studies that found that in this study, liars blink more. In this study, they didn't find that. In this other study, they found that liars do this. In this other study, they found liars do that. But they didn't all agree. So you go to the meta-analysis. Meta-analysis, when you take a whole bunch of studies and you look at all of them and see what do they have in common. And there were 3 massive ones that were done. And even then, there are certain commonalities. Like one of them found that liars move their limbs much less. They're more still as a way to not draw attention to themselves. But the other 2 studies didn't find that.
Yeah, because they were done with Italians.
Exactly. So I mean, you joke, but yes.
Yeah.
So what we find basically when we look at the research is that different people lie in different ways. What we do know about liars, generally speaking, though, is that they're more stressed because lying stresses you out. 2 is that their mind is doing more than a truth teller. Because telling a truth is easy. Remember the truth, tell the truth. That's it. But a liar has to make up a lie, has to go back in their head and remember every other lie they told to see if this lie works with those lies.
Right.
Present the lie, make sure nothing is obvious, check to see if it's working. So we call this an increase in cognitive load. That's the second thing we know. Stress, cognitive load increase. And third is that liars tend to sell a little bit more.
Right.
Because they subconsciously know that they don't believe what they're saying because they know it's false. They fear you may not believe it, so it has to be a bit more sales pitchy.
Right.
So these are the 3 things we know. The tricky thing is that there isn't one behavior that will tell you any of these things, right?
Right. So when we say, oh, somebody's looking a certain direction, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're lying or anything. It just could be their individual pattern of behavior that they've grown throughout their lifetime.
Exactly. So as an analyst, there are certain things I can look for with high confidence. For example, the universal emotions. There's tons of research that shows us that certain things are universal. Anger, disgust, anywhere in the world you go. Maybe they've never watched a single Hollywood movie before. You tell them in their language, what does this mean? They go unpleasant, disgust.
Sure.
They get it.
Right.
Because to every human, this shutting down of the senses is disgust. So sadness, joy, basically Inside Out, the movie Inside Out, right?
Right?
Sadness, joy, disgust, fear, surprise. These are universal. Pride is universal. Everyone in the world, they recognize the posture of pride as being the same. Everywhere in the world, when we start losing confidence or when we're stressed about things, we see the body close up. We see what we call adapters show up in stress. These are massage-like gestures. But when it comes to deception, there isn't one thing that every liar does. Different people lie in different ways. So what we use for deception is called clusters. You know someone's baseline. You know the way they normally behave. You look for a bunch of behaviors that are related to stress or increased cognitive load or sales pitch to appear at the same time.
Right.
And when you see that, does it mean the person is for sure lying? No, it means there's an increased odds that they're lying. It just means we have to dig deep. There's a red flag.
Right.
Something's going on here. Why did all of this change? Why all of a sudden this person who speaks confidently is smaller and hesitating more and seems to be thinking a lot more? That blink rate is up to give me a simple answer that they should know the answer to. Why is that happening? It's curiosity.
We're going to be looking for a lot of red flags today
Yes,
then.
sir. Woo-hoo.
I'm actually looking forward to this a lot. This is a video that's been, for me, I thought about this video for a long time. Now, you on your channel, you've already tackled some of these whistleblowers, which we'll get into. But I believe I've shown you a few more that you haven't yet.
Yep.
So that'll be really interesting. But also, this is something, a little fun fact for you at home to recognize that Spidey and I have been friends for over a decade.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah, we've
Before the beard, before there was any beard.
Before the beard, yeah, that's right. I remember meeting Spidey. I walked into a magic shop. When you used to work in the magic shop, and you sold me some magic. He was my magic peddler back in the day, and we became great friends. And you were always the person I went to for anything related to mentalism because you had such a good mind for this stuff already. You already had a really good baseline on how to read people and then how to basically sell me the idea that you're reading my mind.
Yeah.
So that's something you already cultivated during, I mean, you went to school for this stuff, but also during performance, and that's something that you pick up on too while performing.
Of course.
Because you have to get things out of people and you might already know the truth.
Dude, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing so I've studied with a lot of like ex-interrogators and FBI agents and military interrogators, and they're so jealous at the fact that when we do magic or mentalism, we know the answer.
Right.
We have the only profession where I can look at you and make note of what's happening with your nonverbal communication, knowing whether you're already lying or telling the truth.
Wow, that's so cool.
That data, it doesn't exist for them, right? They go fine. Turns out the guy committed the crime.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have like we have his fingerprints. We're not going to let him know that
Exactly.
yet. Right.
In those cases, that's good intel for them. Or it later turns out that this was the person who did it. So you go back and look at that tape and go, oh, this stuff was, okay, that's what that was. But we have the advantage of looking at someone knowing that they're lying or telling the truth. And I get to see that. So the point you made is brilliant. The nonverbal communication that I study helps the mentalism with my cold reading. And, like within the magic community, I have a reputation for my cold reads.
Yep.
But in turn, what I learn while I do that mentalism helps me learn the nonverbal communication better.
Right.
It's a cycle.
Absolutely. It's so great. You were meant for this.
Yeah.
And I was meant for this, and we were meant to look at this footage.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, folks, just like to remind you, do all the things, like, subscribe, leave reviews, 5-star review on the podcast. It really, really helps. Check out our Discord and stick around for some extra Patreon shenanigans if you would like to. Now, Spidey, I've got a list. I've got a big list here. Also, here's something really important for you guys to know. Spidey is somewhat of a skeptic. Now, I myself do have an inquisitive mind. I am open-minded. But I'm also a little bit reserved, as some of you know. I do have a healthy amount of skepticism, being that I am a magician. I know how easy it is to fool people.
Yeah.
That being said, I do believe in the UAP phenomenon. I have some experiences myself. Spidey, however, hasn't had any really experiences. And so you're coming from a place of complete, I guess, neutrality, but more on the skeptic side.
Yeah. Could I elaborate a little?
Yeah.
Okay. So the point you made is brilliant. As magician and mentalist, we have a very sacred relationship with assumptions, right? Because we know that the way we fool you is we get your brain to take shortcuts. That's how the entirety of magic and mentalism works. We show you something, you assume it's one thing, in fact, it's something else. That's how we fool you. So we get that. We also see that people react to our stuff and retell that story and go, oh my God, this guy read my mind. He knew what I was thinking because he looked at my energy. We see that people jump to those conclusions. He read my energy, so he knew what I was thinking. We know that's not what it is.
That's right.
So we see these fallacies in the real world, but we know behind the curtain. So very often we default to skepticism because we know that there's always something behind the thing.
That's right.
What's the real thing? That is only multiplied in my training with interrogation, because one of the first things they teach you in interrogation training is you got to get rid of truth bias. And truth bias is our natural assumption to believe someone. If you go to the Starbucks and talk to the barista and the person says, I grew up in Texas, you're going to default to believing that, because life would be unimaginable if you questioned everything.
Understood.
But in interrogation, you question everything. You have to, because if you take anything at face value, you might miss the little detail that might crack this whole thing open. So that's really important. In a way that makes me skeptical but inquisitive, as you said, because I question everything. But then on the other hand, I don't believe in absolutes. I don't think there are blacks and whites in the world. Everything is gray. So I'm never the person who invalidates just based on principle.
Right.
You will never come to me and say, I know someone has a story, and I go, no, I don't believe them, without hearing them out.
Right.
So we're on that same spectrum.
I think so.
Yeah, because I don't believe in extremes.
What might have tilted me to being a little having a little bit of personal bias are my experiences with the phenomenon, and I think other than that, I'm pretty much in the middle somewhere.
Of course, and if that happened to me, as a matter of fact, if you told me right now, if I had the experiences you had, would I believe? I would have to.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the same place.
Yeah.
Plus these things that you've experienced, or this is my skeptical mind saying you believe you've experienced.
That's right. Yeah. Well put.
But everything is what we believe we've experienced.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a healthy way to look at it. And it's fun to have a skeptic on here, because I do want my audience to know that this isn't just catered to one side. I do want people who do question things, because that's the only real way we're going to get some factual answers out of it, is if we look at it from an angle that is less desirable, less romantic.
Sure, of course.
And it's not always the better story. But often, Occam's razor and all that stuff, we got to consider it.
Occam's razor.
Yeah. All right.
And before we look at this, that it's a great point you made. And for me, like, can you imagine how much cooler it would be if I just leaned into, because I'm a mentalist.
Right.
I could convince people that I could tell if they're lying or telling the truth.
As I could convince people that I have psychic abilities.
100%. We can do that based on what we know. It's a difficult decision I have to make every day to separate my mentalism from the reality of body language and not romanticize it and make it better than what it is. And that's a difficult nuance to constantly say, guys, look, I know I just did a trick where I told you if you're lying, that was a trick.
Yes.
My body language doesn't allow me to do that. So I appreciate that you appreciate that nuance.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So let me set up the clips here. The first clip we're going to look at is a clip that actually came out recently. This is one of the newer clips. This is former President Donald Trump on a talk show, what seems to be the Gutfeld show. I'm not familiar with the show, but they do ask him about Area 51. Now, this isn't the first time he's ever been asked about this, but this is the most recent time a president or former president has been asked about aliens. And so I thought it would be worthwhile that we have a look at this one first.
Absolutely. It's a great clip. And first noteworthy thing before we even press play is that this is not on their channel. It's on his channel.
That's right. He uploaded it.
He uploaded it. So he's okay with this being out there. It's not this got him thing. He's okay with this being out there.
Exactly. Okay. Oh, nice.
We begin before we begin.
Yeah. I like this.
Ready?
Yep.
Are there aliens at Area 51?
I'll tell you.
So I just really quickly want to talk about the reaction to the question. So the question hits and we get this like this kind of like
deflated
so yeah, right. So this kind of like this moment of like the heavy topic, may not want to talk about this. So this could be theatrics or it could just be him actually going, this is a tough one, like getting ready. And then it becomes a little more clear because we kind of see the chin go down there, and this is whenever think about your vital organs, the wrist, the neck, and all the reproductive organs. As a reflex, when we're unconfident, we guard these things. So you might see the wrist disappear. Yeah. So, and we saw that. We saw the chin come down. We saw the chin come down. This is a touchy subject.
A little bit,
he rocked a little bit. Exactly.
Discomfort.
We see this little bit of a no gesture, kind of like this throwaway no gesture. But then what happens is we see it immediately. He perks up and he goes into that Donald Trump position of presenting
mode.
So even before he talks, we know that we might be going towards a script on this.
Right. But reluctantly.
Yeah. So there's this, this is a heavy topic. Not sure I want to talk about this. Perk up. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
So now let's see what we're going to get. What is this thing we're going to?
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Are there aliens at Area 51?
I'll tell you, it's a funny thing because I think that might be a question that I get more than any question. It is the craziest thing. So we have that so-called area they can.
Okay, so before we get to this, so a lot of in an interrogation when a question is asked, immediately there are two things happening in my head. The first one is the answer that's being provided answering my question, and is it answering my entire question? That's one. And two, how long before we actually get to an actual answer to the question?
Stall.
So there's delaying tactics, right? And what are delaying tactics? Delaying tactics could be hesitation. So I just hesitate before I answer. It could be verbal leaks, that kind of thing. It could be what we call non-answer statements, which is, in this case, he's got this joke. That's the question I get asked more often than any other question.
Or let me ask you something.
Let me ask you something. That's a complete deflection.
Yeah.
Non-answer, complete non-answer. But sometimes it's just we need a minute to get to the answer. We need a second to recollect our thoughts.
Right.
So I can be very consistent.
I see.
Downwards, this kind of.
Let me remember the script.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me a sec here.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing. Does it mean the answer isn't going to come? No.
Yeah.
It just means we need an extra second there. And again, look at the hands, right? He went into this. When you see him give his speeches and debates, this is what he's used to. It's his baseline.
We all know that.
He's going to this classic way of speaking.
Personality.
Yeah.
Area they consider it like a sacred area. And I will say this, I don't think I'm a believer, but I've interviewed pilots that look, I like Tom Cruise, but better than Tom Cruise.
Okay, so few things. First of all, notice we're still not technically at an answer.
That's right.
Like we've gone a couple of seconds now, and we're still getting a lot of context.
Yeah. That seems on brand.
It seems pretty on brand
for Trump, though.
Right? Yeah, but also like another thing that's on brand for him is making the big statements.
Right.
And we're not there yet. So we're taking some time to get there. And there was an interesting line there. I wrote it down.
Something about also like this sacred area. Like he never repeats the area.
He doesn't say Area 51,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't say. Now, is that what he's talking about? Are there other areas?
There are other areas.
Are there other areas?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he doesn't say Area
Allegedly.
51.
No, there is Area 52. That is an actual place.
Oh, are you going to get sued?
The government sue me?
Yeah.
I would love that.
Guys, if this video goes down, look into it.
Yeah.
So look for us. Come looking for us. So that's what we call psychological distancing, right? When you don't say the thing, but you say the thing that references the thing.
Aha.
So sometimes you're interrogating someone who's suspected of murder, right? And they go, I would never hurt someone. Not murder, I would never hurt someone. Like, or I would never lay a hand. I would never lay a hand on this person.
Right. We didn't talk about laying a hand. We talked about murder.
Murder. So they're using softer language to distance from what it is.
Right.
So the so-called area. What's so-called area? It's an area. It's not a so-called area. It's an area.
Yeah.
But so-called throws doubt at it.
Right. Makes it less important.
Yeah. So-called. This so-called area. He also said, "I don't think I'm a believer."
Yeah. And when he said that, he also kind of laughed.
Yes.
There was like a little bit of laugh.
Like a
believer.
like
like
a
little,
like almost like a smug, kind of like a what do you call it? Like almost a contemptuous vibe towards.
Yeah, and I'm not insane. Like I don't want you to think I'm insane. Like I think there is something to be said about this is sort of voting season coming up.
Yeah.
So he's probably at his most sort of diplomatic that he's ever been. Like if he were president or were not running for president, I think we would probably hear a very different tone.
Yeah.
But now he's kind of, as much as he is able to, control his words.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm a believer is interesting because does it mean you're a believer? You're not a believer? It's not very clear. Like I don't think I'm a believer. So are you or you're not? And it's political talk, right?
That's right.
You don't want to alienate any of your voters.
Yeah.
By going, oh look, I'm
Very
not
diplomatic.
a believer. So go, he's not a believer. I don't want him running our country.
That's right. Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to alienate those voters. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And pun intended.
What's the pun?
Alienate.
Alienate. This is why you're the investigation guy, and I just do the body language.
UFOs,
wow, geez, that's just, real pro here. So yeah, I don't think I'm a believer. So vague, and I, it's a language that just kind of doesn't. Let's keep the voters.
And also, I think Trump, if I'm not mistaken, I think in the past he might have been saying he wasn't a believer.
Okay, so okay.
So I think his stance on it might have changed due to recent events.
So maybe that's him saying, I haven't changed.
Yeah, like
I don't think I'm a believer.
Yeah,
however.
Yeah, or he wasn't a believer, now he is, but he doesn't want to give that away just yet.
Right. anything in
because
that
I think he
area.
has said on air that they didn't believe in this stuff.
Okay.
And then now he's like, I don't think I'm a believer, but like I think he gets into this a little bit. Why?
So the other interesting thing is that there's a small hint here that at the very least it's likely he hasn't seen anything mind-blowingly extraordinary.
Right.
Because his belief is still in question.
Right.
Right? We're going to look at some other president's answers in a little bit. If he had seen, because he's willing to give us, we're about to go to the rest of the answer. He's saying, I'm not a believer, but here's this little thing.
Right.
It's not, I wasn't a believer till I saw this.
Yeah, but that also might be because of the president thing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
At the very least,
he's not conveying that there's this big thing that he's seen.
that's right. But at the very least is he definitely believes in something.
Something.
Yeah, okay.
So behaviorally now, even without looking at the rest of the answer, and earlier when we were watching this, I paused and I was able to tell you, okay, so here's what's going to come. Some sort of small counter evidence to his non-belief. So we're about to get something that a little
Justifies
something,
that.
not a huge thing, because
Yeah.
we could see in the way that he's setting it up. It's not like okay, I didn't used to believe.
Right.
You know, that's how the big things
But
are.
it'll justify maybe why.
a little thing, yeah. So here we go. Let's see what this thing is.
The blonde crew cuts, the whole, and this, yes, sir.
But even in the way that he's saying the blonde, the crew cuts, the yes sir, he's remembering actual people here.
Ah.
Like this is like, you know what I mean? Like in his head, there's a
Weird
very
details.
there's a clear image of these people. It's not like these pilots came
No,
into
this
my
conversation
office.
happened.
This happened.
Ooh.
He talked to these pilots, right? He's describing and even in the way when he's about to quote what they said, he's going to go, no, sir. He's recalling their words.
Ah, yeah.
So this isn't him going, yeah, look, I talked to some pilots. Because here's the thing. We know that quite often when he doesn't have an alibi, he says, everybody always tells me. He makes up these non-existent people.
Right.
We know that this
But
is
now
baseline.
it's blonde crew cut Tom Cruise guy.
Yeah, right? So we've heard him say,
Interesting.
I've talked to a lot of scientists.
Yeah.
No. But it was never, I talked to these guys in the lab coats and the very he doesn't say that.
Right.
But here we're getting a description.
Ooh, interesting.
He talked to these people.
Learning a lot about this guy right now.
And they were in the Oval Office, 3 or 4 pilots. These are not people that make up stories. These are, they said, all I know, sir, is there was a round object that was going 4 times faster than my...
When he said round object for a quick second, his
Round
eyes
object.
turned to the side and his eyes opened up just a little.
Yeah.
And this is very consistent with surprise. So all the emotions that require intel, which is surprise, anger, and fear, our eyes open up. And the research was actually out of the University of Toronto that found that when our eyes are wide open, we take in more information with our peripherals. So that's why with surprise, you see those eyes open up. So even right there,
But that might be him conveying the pilot's surprise or his own surprise to the news,
correct.
right?
We can't know.
Office, 3 or 4 pilots. These are not people that make up stories. These are...
And that's testimony to so that we were talking about this earlier, you and I. When people talk about our magic shows, they embellish.
They embellish.
Because they don't want to look like they're wrong for liking our show.
That's right.
That's the same here.
And they also want to convey the emotion that they had
felt.
when they received that information.
That's exactly what that line is. When he said, these aren't people who make things up.
Yeah.
It's him going, I don't believe just anyone.
That's right. You have to. You would have to be there to understand
Yeah.
what happened. Like you had to be there. These guys were real. Like, yeah.
Even the way he's setting up their credibility, the way they stand, their posture, right? These are serious guys. Because he's trying to tell us, if you think they're not credible, if you were there with me in that Oval Office, you would have seen how credible they are.
Right. Okay.
They said, all I know, sir, is there was a round object.
See the way the eyes...
Yeah,
sorry.
a round
See
object.
the eyes are a round object. So, yeah, and you're perfectly, and you're 100% right about that. That could be his own surprise of hearing that,
Yeah.
or their own surprise.
Yeah, or like he saw the video.
No, I believe this is something he was told.
It was going 4 times faster than my F-22, which is a...
Okay, now look what's happening here. Now he's looking at people. First he was talking vaguely. Now he's looking at people.
Okay.
We call these confirmation glances. Like, this is hard to believe, but are you with me? Are you with me on
Right.
this?
And now let me throw another fact at you.
Let me throw some more.
fast plane. And it wasn't, it shouldn't have been. It was round, sir. They have seen...
It was round, sir. He's quoting them.
Right. So it did happen.
I mean, 4 or 5 guys I've interviewed, solid people, great pilots for the U.S. Air Force, etc. They've seen things that they cannot explain.
So what I love about that is this. In interrogation, there's different words for it. The CIA, in their training, call it convincing statements,
Mm-hmm.
but other interrogators call it resume statements. And this is something that we hear often when someone's trying to build their credibility.
Mm-hmm.
They go to their resume, they go to their CV, right? So they might, there's life
Right.
CV. So somebody might say something like, look, I worked in law enforcement for 20 years and I had a squeaky clean record. I would never do something like, take a bribe or something like that. So they start building themselves up. And what's interesting here is he's not building himself up, he's building his source up. That's the second or third time we hear him talk about how, these guys are great pilots for the U.S., I don't know if you said Navy, Army, whatever.
Air Force.
Air Force. But he's building them up to give them credibility for us to not go, okay, well, he is nonsense, these people. He's giving them credibility so he seems credible through them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Follow-up
So there's
question.
something.
Or, by the way, sorry. Yeah. What'd you see?
So something. He says, so something. So if you...
Go back.
Follow-up
So there's
question.
something.
Also a maybe. I think
So there's something.
So there's something.
So he's giving you that. He's giving us that.
He's going, there's something. I don't know what it is, but there's
Yeah.
something. There's also, it's interesting, right at the end of all that, there's a lip compression. So we see the lips compress. And we're going to talk today about baseline and, certain behaviors that for someone is normal.
Mm.
Like for George Bush, we're going to see later, lip compression is his baseline.
Yeah.
So I got that. For Trump, it's not. But at the end right there, we got that as he was done, that lip
Right.
compression.
Tight-lipped.
So yeah, so tight-lipped is a really good way to put that. So whenever we see compression in the lips, typically we go to disagreement or withheld opinion.
Right.
So
We're
when you're
holding back.
We're holding back. So imagine if I ask you what you like. Let's say we have a friend and they're dating someone new, and I go, hey, what do you think of such and such girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever? And we're talking about it, and I see you at the corner of my eye, like, you don't want to share your opinion.
Right.
You're holding it in, right?
Right.
And if you look for this in day-to-day
Yeah.
life, it's crazy how often you see people who disagree
Yeah.
tightening those lips.
But in babies, it's just gas.
And babies, but sometimes it's simply not that I don't want to say something, but I have nothing more to say.
I see.
And that's what that likely is.
Yeah.
This is what I know. And
Yeah.
he's going, and,
Or this is what I'm willing to say.
yeah, willing to say, that's all I have to say. So, and we often say that at the end of a sentence, somebody will go, that's all I got. That's
Yeah.
all I got to say there.
Can't share anymore or won't share anymore. We don't know.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's
All right.
what we saw there.
I think we move on.
So conclusion. I don't really have a reason to believe that this conversation didn't happen.
Right.
I'm not, and here's the thing.
Do you think he
Don-
knows more than he's letting on here, or does he know exactly what he's letting on?
I think if there is more, it isn't a whole lot more.
Right, but that might only be his recollection from this one meeting. He might have had other meetings that he's
Sure.
not recalling.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
I know you want that to be the
That's
case.
exactly what I want.
I can't tell you that behavior.
But for me, also, here's the other thing I want to say about presidents being debriefed on this or briefed on this subject is that they are employees. They're temporary employees and people who work on these, legacy projects. People who, are heads of, directors of NSA, CIA, NASA, JRO, all this or NRO and all these things. They've been there for 30, 40 plus years. They're not going to let some guy who's got max 8 years come in here and shuffle things around, So they're going to brief them on a need to know.
Yeah.
And they also do that for, what do you call it? Plausible deniability.
Sure.
Because if they let him in on too much and this thing comes out, then they say, did you know about this? And then he's caught lying.
Yeah.
That's a bad look.
He has a job to do.
That's right. So plausible deniability is one reason a lot of presidents won't be briefed on this subject. But there has been some cases in the past where some presidents have been shown some things, and we won't get into that. But Donald Trump, has he been shown something?
Yeah, I mean he's had conversations.
He's been told something.
He's been told something. No, shown. I don't know. He's
Okay.
had conversations of people who have seen something, and here's the thing: this is a man who doesn't hesitate to embellish.
That's true.
We've seen those examples of
I
him.
don't know about that. Really?
Huh?
Okay.
So in this case, what I find interesting is that he's not giving us this huge story.
Right.
It's a very credible small thing, and he's going, this is what.
Yeah, that is out of character.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is a little bit out of character. He is one to go big
Yeah.
on subjects, but this is the subject that you would go
Embellish.
small on.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the things we don't know.
Yeah, but if it
right.
was real, I mean,
Oh, you mean you would go small on?
yeah, if it
Okay.
was real.
Okay,
Yeah.
fascinating.
I mean, if it wasn't real, he'd be like, "Well, we saw spaceships, huge spaceship. We got the best spaceships."
We have the-
All right, let's go.
Let me throw one more caveat before we move on
Sure.
and look at some other presidents. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that my knowledge of behavior and body language exceeds that of whoever's training a president. You know what I mean? The people I learned from these people.
Sure.
So there are people in the government that teach, coach, and we're about to see it a lot more clearly with one of the other ex-presidents that we're about to look at, who I don't know why I say in such a mysterious way. It's Barack Obama, where there are times where he has an excellent poker face, and these guys.
He was trained.
They go through this training, by excellent people who know how to not leak this information. So everything I'm looking for, they've gone through X amount of training that tells them how to counter that. You know, in the military, there's resistance to interrogation training.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, Greg Hartley, taught that in the military.
Yeah.
And they teach you ways to not give information away. So, that information is out there. So let's keep that in mind.
Biden's got a really good tactic for that, too. This is Barack Obama.
Here it is.
If I was the president, and it's unlikely that that is ever going to happen.
You never know.
If I was the president.
It was unlikely that I was going to be president.
The moment I was inaugurated, my hand it'd still be hot from touching the Bible, and I would immediately race to wherever they have the files about Area 51 and the UFOs, and I'd go through everything to find out what happened.
Right.
Did you do that?
That's why you will not be president. Because that's the first thing that you would do.
It's at the
The
top
aliens
of my
won't
list.
let it happen. You reveal all their secrets. They exercise strict control over us.
Now, there are a lot of people that are
Dude.
Here's what I love about this. We have different filters as we're watching this, because you have the filter of it's out there. How do I find that in what he's saying here?
Yes.
And I'm looking at it going, I don't know if it's out there. What indications can I find in either direction? So we're looking at different filters. What did you see that confirms your findings?
I mean, the first thing is something you pointed out to me as we were looking at this before. I was showing him the videos a little bit, and he was giving me kind of little tidbits on what he was thinking. And one of them was like the sort of like slow, like to the side, like, oh, here we go again. This story I gotta talk about again now.
Was this in this clip or the last one?
In both.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
There's a little one there right at the beginning when he's answering the question.
Let me see that. Oh, there.
Yeah, right there. You got it right there.
Right there, right?
Yeah. Kind of like, here we go again. Where's my script? Falls back to joke. This guy jokes a lot. He's got a really great sense of humor, and I think humor is a great way to deflect. It's great because everyone's on your side. You don't have to pick a side. You're picking a neutral ground, which is the funny side.
Yeah, and we don't know if you're poking fun of it or just kind of like, we don't know if the joke is because you believe in that and you're kind of laughing at yourself, or you don't believe in that, so you're mocking it.
Or it's neutral ground.
Right.
And you only care about the humor. And I think that's why comedy is so special and why comedy is so important, because when we have really tense situations, the best thing to do is to joke about it. So both sides can kind of laugh, and we can just kind of like treat it as something neutral rather than pick a side. Sure. So he's again, that might be part of his training.
Sure, absolutely. Of course, because like you said, if you go to humor, there's nothing for me to catch because you're not even talking about the thing.
That's right. And it's a comedy show, so it's very fitting.
Like we said before, the question I ask myself, how long before you get to the answer? And comedy kind of buys you time.
Does buy him time, but in a more gracious way.
Yeah, I want to talk about something really interesting that I saw there. And for the viewers, I don't want you guys to think that I saw it now in real time. This saw from the screen. Earlier, you saw me watching, and I was like in your computer pretty much.
Yeah, Spidey, for those of you who don't know, he took notes on all these things so that we didn't have to like sit through all the note taking. Yeah. And now he's kind of showing me what he found after watching these clips, studying them once pretty much, and now we're watching them.
So the moment Kimmel said Area 51, at that exact... So I was saying Barack Obama has a very good poker face, because as he's talking about this, you just see him sitting there just nodding like this, looking at him. Mm-hmm. And when the subject comes up, we don't see any type of, big... You're right, there's this bit of a kind of, as he's talking about it, this kind of throwaway, moving away from the subject a little bit, but there isn't this big obvious cluster of stress. One thing we do see, the moment Kimmel says Area 51, we see something that's called a slow blink or eye block. Different words for the same thing, which is anytime I'm talking, my eyes close for a little bit longer than you would expect. So as I'm talking to you, you might say something. So eye blocking is great because the research on this, there was a ton of research done on this, and one of the studies was done on children who were born blind. And I love research that's done on children who are born blind or adults who are born blind.
The children love it too.
The children love it because you can tell. It's so silly. You can tell what's innate to humans rather than what's learned.
Yeah.
Because why would it? Because you could say as a theory, we close our eyes to not see something or to block out distractions, but a blind person wouldn't have to do that.
Right. Exactly.
Also, we know for a fact that they didn't see other people do it.
Mm-hmm.
So eye blocking happens. So the easiest way to remember this is the eyelids are the garage doors to your thoughts. So if I'm trying to keep a thought in
Very romantic.
or keep a thought, I say this on first dates all the time.
You know what they say about the eyes, right? The garage doors.
Thoughts. So either to keep a thought in or to keep a thought out. So the study with the blind children found that it actually helps them remember things better when they close their eyes.
You know what's interesting is that in remote viewing, they were trained not to close their eyes during remote viewing because it invites imagination.
Exactly. So when I close my eyes, I can think, imagine, retrieve, go to my thought, go to my mind.
Yes.
So and I would think it's because it blocks out distractions, and it could still be that. But because we've been doing that for X amount of time, now it's built into our habits. So closing the eyes very often to hold on to a thought. But also, if you give me a thought that I don't want to let in, we see eye blocking as well.
Right.
So if you give me bad news,
I don't want to hear it.
yeah, exactly. I go, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And so there's a lot of
I've
theories
got
as to
enough
why.
going on in here.
Right. So and that.
Yeah.
As much as that's a joke,
No,
that
yeah.
might be the reason we do it. We try to redirect our thoughts elsewhere, right? So I don't want to think about that. I'm going to try to distract my thoughts away.
Love
so like
that.
you said in the remote viewing, I'm just going to imagine something else, go to something else. So the moment Area 51 comes up, now I will say this, with Obama, it is in his baseline that occasionally he might do this as he acknowledges something, or he might, as he emphasizes something, do this kind of thing, like to stress the importance of something. We often do that sometimes. This is really important. We might do that. But it was interesting that it happened there. And I want you to put a little pin in that, because in the next clip we're going to look at Barack Obama, I want you to look at what happens the moment the subject comes up again.
I also like to know when this clip was in relation to the next one. I want to see which one was first and which one was after, because this one seems like he's better trained.
This is 9 years ago.
Yeah.
This is more recent.
So, yeah. Oh, wow.
The one where he's
Okay, so the one where he's a little more trained was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so he might have just been privy to more information then in that case.
I love how that's where you want to go.
That's where I want to go.
Listen, it could be that. Look, it could simply be like
He could be tired.
if I ask you to show me, if you don't do a single card trick for 9 years, and I ask you to see one 9 years from now in the future, or 6 years, this will be 6 years apart,
Might slip up.
you might slip up because you're not as polished.
No one's asking that question in a while, maybe.
Nobody's asked him any question in a while.
That's right. Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
So maybe it could be that. I don't know. But this is us backwards justifying knowing.
Also, he had the whole sort of jokey on, the aliens are controlling us. Oh,
So humor.
to me, that seems like, okay, to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people who believe in UFOs and UAPs, that seems to be, that looks like a lot of fun for him to say that. That's what I picked up. He was having fun saying that. For me, it feels like a release, like a relief that he's allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that everyone thinks it's funny, and he's the smartest guy in the room, and he's kind of like, and hey, they're controlling our lives too, and they can read our minds.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like he's having fun with it, and I feel this absolute release of stress versus if he was lying, I feel like there would be more stress after he said that.
Could be.
Okay.
It's not again, like it's so difficult because different people lie and tell truths in different ways.
Yeah.
I can tell you're right about the comedy is giving him relief. Like, I could do this for a bit before I actually have to answer this. This might work. Beyond that, I can't tell you much more.
But if there's truth in that comedy, I mean, how deceptive is that, eh? That's how you can't tell.
Well, that's like I was telling you
Throw
earlier.
the truth in the comedy? There's no way of
Just
knowing?
say the truth. Yeah.
Ooh.
It's like I was telling you, when you play games of deception like Werewolf,
Yeah.
we love Werewolf.
Yeah.
We used to play all the time.
I loved it until I started playing with you, to be honest. It lasts one round.
Why are we even playing? So
Spidey's like, I'll take it from here. It's like, we haven't even started yet.
The blackboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Ramses tells.
We're all just going, we haven't even played yet, dude. He's like,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
There's a healthy number of people who refuse to play werewolf with me. Anyways, you know when you play werewolf, I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's a game of deception where you're trying to deceive people who's the werewolf, got to find who the werewolf is. And, sometimes you might see someone who's werewolf try this tactic to where they feel they can relax if they just flat out say they're werewolf in a jokey way. Like, look, guys, I'm not werewolf, but that's something werewolf would say.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? So just say it.
Smart liar.
Smart liar.
All
So
right.
I'm just going to put that out there, but I'm not saying that's what this is.
No, I'll
I'm
commit
just
to
saying-
that. Let's go.
Yeah, that's you saying it. Where were we? Were we here a little further?
Yeah, somewhere. I don't know.
It's at the
The
top of
aliens
my
won't
list.
let it happen. You reveal all their secrets. They exercise strict control over us.
Now, there are a lot of people that are going to examine your facial expressions here, every twitch, everything, and say,
Who's gonna do that?
Yeah.
Who's gonna examine his twitches and be? Who would do that? Nobody would do that.
Court. So did you look? Did you see? Did you explore?
I can't reveal anything.
Oh, really?
Hey, hold on.
Oh, yeah, me too. Hold on. Me too. Hold on.
I see something.
What is it?
I'll tell you. Okay, what do you see?
So if you ask me if there are alligators living in my attic,
Uh-huh.
and instead of saying no,
I
I go,
say
I
it.
can't reveal anything.
Yeah, I'd be like, there's fucking alligators in here.
You know what I
For
mean?
sure, dude.
Like if I can't reveal anything,
Yeah.
then there's something to reveal, presumably.
Yes.
Right? Something. I don't know what, but
Oh,
something.
100%.
Otherwise, why isn't it no?
Oh, yeah. No, that goes without saying. I am on board with that for sure. Yes.
What is your thing?
My thing is, he just told him people are going to look at you to see if you're lying.
Right.
Instantly goes to something that isn't a lie.
I can't reveal anything.
Yes. Instantly goes
Default to
to
protocol.
instantly goes to a place where no one can read what he says because he shut it down.
Great point.
Mm.
Because there are two things in interrogation that is a checkmate. Well, one's a
Mm-hmm.
checkmate, one's a stalemate. The checkmate is I don't remember.
We see that with not that don't remember, but we do see one of the checkmates later on with Bush. I think you said.
Yes, Bush, right, Kimmel. So there's one coming up, and it's very similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
So the checkmate is I don't remember. Because in an interrogation, if I ask you a question, where were you on Wednesday? When
Don't
you were
remember.
I don't remember. What the heck else can I ask you?
Yeah.
I can't look for tells. I can't look for anything. I'm done.
Yeah.
And you don't owe me anything more than that. I don't remember. Well, damn, that's not right, because I'm not looking the goal of an interrogation is to get to that confession.
Yeah.
Use the tells to get to the confession.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be me in interrogation room. Did you kill this person? I'm like, I don't remember.
well, great.
They're like, well, hold on.
Right. So I guess pick and choose your battles, but I don't remember as a checkmate.
Yeah.
I can't answer that is a stalemate. It's definitely something we look for in a cluster. Did they answer the question? And if there's a refusal to deny,
That means change the question.
switch it up, come back to it.
Yeah.
Try to see if you could work your way, But the moment we get I can't answer that or I don't want to answer that, yes, the refusal to answer is suspicious. Of course it is. But beyond that, it's a stalemate because we can't go on from there.
Right.
So the moment he says that, I can't reveal anything, I go, okay, interesting. So there might be something to reveal. Why don't you want to reveal this? But all I have is questions. I can't go anywhere more with that. So that's an interesting note. I have in my notes that we see a slow blink. 2 slow blinks.
That might be on the next one. Oh,
there it is, right
There
there.
it is. Yep.
President Clinton said he did go right in and he did check and there was nothing.
Well, that's what we're instructed to say.
There's another one.
Yeah, and then you got another one?
No, that was the 2.
There, okay, yeah. So we saw 2 slow blinks there as he's nodding, and that's what we're instructed to say. And that could simply be, again, like I did tell you earlier that he does this a lot, so it could be baseline.
I found it very interesting that after he said there's people reading your body language, he shut down.
He shut down.
The joke stopped. It was serious mode.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you, and I think maybe he's like thinking, damn, did I say something that they're going to like? He's already in his head.
Right.
He did fine, though.
And you know what Kimmel did? Kimmel did something that, look, as a comedian, as an interviewer, he's terrific. He has decades more experience than I will ever have. And that works great. In an interrogation, there's actually something specifically we're not supposed to do and take the person out of the moment into long-term thinking. and think of the consequence of what they're saying, right? So interrogation, when the person says something like, oh my God, what if I go to jail? What if my life is going to be over? It's an interrogator's job to go, look, don't worry about that. What's important is right now, this conversation, let's get the truth out there. We'll worry about all those other things. So keep them in the moment, in the now. He did the opposite. He said, people are going to, this is going to be all over the place. People are going to look at you. That could shift his thinking into, oh my God, holy crap. That's right. Because up until then, Kimmel may have gotten him into a place of comfort, which is what you want to do. Because he's joking. He's having that conversation.
There might be some truth in that. There might be.
So maybe in his head, he's like, I'm sitting down having this conversation with a pal. But the moment Kimmel says, people are going to watch this, they're going to break down your body language, he goes, oh yeah, hold on. This is going to, I'm on a show.
Now we see the slow blinks. Now we see the shutting down.
Closing in. I can't say anything more. So there's a shift. So it's interesting shift there.
All right, let's go to the next one here before we take him any further, because we got some more to go through.
Yeah.
Betcha.
Imagine if you said no. Imagine do you know what?
No, I'm good.
Do you know what? I'm gonna skip it tonight.
No,
By the way, sorry, before we even get to the question,
were you going to say that Reggie Watts would be a way better host than James Corden? Is that what you were going to say?
No.
No, okay, I thought that was it. That's what I was going to say.
Okay, yeah. Your blink rate did indicate that. I'm kidding.
Yeah, dude, it's so much better.
Look at that slow blink the moment the topic comes up.
Okay, yes.
Question today. It goes to, let's make it for President Obama, since he's here. All this talk about dem aliens with the what are they, UAFs or whatever they call them, all the footage and
slow blink.
about it. It's like,
licking lips.
what is your, I know that doesn't.
So that already you just named 3 things that are associated to a cluster of stress.
I'm learning.
So you're right. So we covered that tight lip. Then we see that slow blink. Okay, here we go. And
Preparation.
It could be preparation. I was about to say, it could just be him. Okay, I need a second to find that script. Where's that script for aliens? It's somewhere in there. And maybe that's why we see a little bit more falling apart. It's been a while. So, okay, that's in there somewhere.
Got to go back.
And the lip lick. So let's talk about lip licking, because we're going to see in other places in these videos as well.
Is that preparatory?
It very well can be. So it's most commonly one of 2 things. One is either stress straight up, because when you're stressed, your mouth dries out. Miscorrects that. The second is, yes, it's a grooming gesture. So grooming gesture is anything we do to fix our appearance. Licking the lips brings more color to them, and that does constitute grooming. And that's when our thoughts shift inwards and we go, we're self-conscious because we have to present something. Okay, here we go. Let me just make sure I look good and go. So we very, very commonly see this when you look at a speaker or even a performer just before they go on. Next time you're with your comedian buddies, watch the comedian before he's introduced or he's being introduced. Quick. Okay, here we go. A little bit of get that nervous energy out and lick the lips, and here we go.
So we don't see that unless there are cameras or people looking.
So if
it was like a small conversation between people, you probably wouldn't see any of that self-grooming.
It would be very let's say we're having a conversation here and there's 4 of us and I'm not really talking about this thing, but now you're going to bring me into the conversation.
Right, and now it's your turn.
No, it's my turn.
Oh,
so really quick.
okay.
Okay, here, it's my turn coming up.
Right.
Here we go.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So that could simply
quite
be,
a lot off the bat.
Right off the bat, before the subject comes up, so we're already seeing what would constitute a small cluster of stress, right? So it's not like if you told me okay, now we're going to talk about mentalism, and you would see, okay, yeah, let's go.
Right.
You wouldn't see this. Okay, yeah, here we go.
Let me see what I remember about mentalism.
Right. Okay. It's a different energy.
No, that doesn't necessarily mean aliens. It is just a UAF. But I was wondering if you have a theory about that.
There we go again. Look at that.
Well,
did you see it again? Slow blink, lip blink, off to the side, eyebrow flash. Yeah, and an eyebrow flash before the So eyebrow flash is one of the oldest and most researched.
There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack.
There's that's a big.
Let's talk about that. So it's really hard to narrow it down, but there is one commonality to eyebrow flashes because there's a ton of research and it dates back a long time. Darwin was talking about eyebrow flashes. So there are 3 things that specific social contexts in which we see eyebrow flashes, and they all do have one thing in common. Can you guess? You already said one of them, kind of. What would you think? If I do this in a conversation, what do you think this might be?
Surprise.
Surprise is exactly one of them. So in surprise, the eyebrows go up.
Yeah. Surprise, maybe seriousness.
So emphasis.
Yeah.
To emphasize something. And the research that was done on this tracked very specifically how The eyebrows went up in a conversation before the important topic, in milliseconds before the important thing was about to be said.
I see.
And 3, this is really hard.
Confusion?
No, it's social approval. So
Oh, right. Being like, right?
so either that or you see someone across the street, hey, what's
Right.
going on? So social
Right.
connection, approval,
see.
some social element.
Okay.
So, but the thing they all have in common is this: importance.
Mm-hmm.
So whether I'm giving importance to something like, whoa, look at this,
Yeah.
or giving importance to this topic or to a person,
Yeah.
we use our eyebrows. So the research has shown that if you look at older
Even
versions,
me reacting to this, if I go, that means like, oh, wow, like that registers. Like,
yeah,
that's important.
wow,
Yeah.
okay, huh.
Yeah.
that's
Surprise.
important.
Oh, yeah.
So if you look at the foreheads of our ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who subscribe to evolution theory,
Yeah.
you do.
Let's not get into it.
You're in.
Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah. So if you look at that, the forehead was more advanced,
Mm-hmm.
and the eyebrows were less mobile.
Mm-hmm.
But as we evolved, we gained mobility in the eyebrows.
Right.
And the reason we think that happened is because in nonverbal communication, we use them a lot to communicate. Because when you're on stage doing your show, comedy or magic, your 50th row,
You're saying we have more?
we have more.
Wouldn't we have
we used to.
less?
No, because we use them.
Yeah, but like before we wouldn't talk.
Oh, no, but verbal communication is so little in our history.
Yeah, but we wouldn't talk before, right? So like
Right, so we evolved because we
wouldn't
needed it.
Yeah, but wouldn't we have had like more eyebrow talking if we have less words?
We evolved to gain them because we needed it.
Okay.
Like you evolved to be better,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think like if you didn't talk before, wouldn't that mean you would use your eyebrows more?
Okay, so yes, but in the earliest versions we didn't have that mobility,
Right.
But we gained it
Oh, I
because
see, I see.
still
We didn't
for a
have it
long
all.
time we weren't talking.
Yeah. I thought that's where all of these muscles were. It's just eyebrow muscles.
No.
Yeah, they're like,
curls with your
come with me
eyebrows."
over here.
No, we gained mobility because we need it.
I see.
Like when we were hunting gathering, we needed this to communicate.
Yeah, okay.
So we evolved to be better at this.
Right.
And the reason for that is when you're on stage, your 50th row can't see your eyes, but they could see your eyebrows. When you emphasize something, when you're doing magic and you go, and was this your card? They don't see your eyes, but they see your eyebrows give importance to this thing. So we've gained mobility because it's helped us communicate better. And they did studies on the Academy of 1,000 studies on the eyebrows. I love the eyebrows. I'm a big eyebrow fan. So
Big eyebrow guy here.
they did a study where they took pictures of celebrities
Yeah.
and removed the eyes
Right.
to see how much people recognize them, and then remove the eyebrows to see how much people recognize them. We recognize celebrities more if their eyes are removed, but the eyebrows are there,
Whoa.
than if the eyebrows are removed and the eyes are still there.
Whoa, yeah.
And I've seen the research pictures, and I can confirm it. With the eyebrows gone, I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
But when I saw the without the eyes, I was like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah. Whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, and you can look that up and throw up some pictures.
Very cool.
I won't say who the celebrities are, but you can throw up the pictures. So anyways, all this to say, eyebrows, mega important for giving importance to things.
Okay.
So in this moment, as he's turning away with this, it could very well be, okay, well, this is a big one. Here we go with this big,
Yeah.
topic. But it's also happening in this big throwaway gesture. It could be surprise as well. Sometimes it's hard to tell because it could be like, oh, I wasn't expecting to talk about this.
Right. Okay.
So it's hard to tell, but there is an importance here.
Yep.
And look how long it took to start talking. I wasn't sure if I had it play yet.
And this is also a clip that's going to be interesting to watch because as you saw with the last clip with Obama and with most of Obama's clips, he's very well read. He speaks like so precisely with his words. He's literally like probably the president with the best vocabulary that we've ever like really had. Like he's so good at speaking, but he fumbles a lot here.
Here he does.
Yeah.
And it's off
So
baseline.
look for that. Yeah.
He's very eloquent, and we've already seen it.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
hesitation and the
even his vernacular and everything is really good normally, but now it's just, yeah.
There's some things I just can't tell you on air.
But you'll tell us off air? Great.
lip flick,
You know,
And he looked to the side too.
no, look.
eyebrow flash.
The truth is that when
Stumbling. The truth is,
So much stumbling and also saying there's certain things I can't tell you
on air.
on air.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing to say.
And again, it's a confirmation that there are things to say.
And there's not only that, I think there's a confirmation that these conversations are happening.
Oh, right. Dude, good catch.
Because otherwise he would just say, there's certain things that I can't say, but he's like on air. So he's telling people he shouldn't be telling, I think.
Off air.
Off air.
Dude. You need to start a behavioral analysis channel.
Yeah, this is it. This is the genesis.
This is the one. Yeah, but like you said, there's those delay tactics are there again.
Yeah.
We're not like, remember how I said how much time before we get to the answer?
Mm-hmm.
So, things we can't talk about.
And now he's
on the
about to
air.
go. Now look. Now we're going into speech.
The truth
preparation.
is.
Yeah.
The truth is.
Yeah. Look. Here's something I can tell you.
And this is the truth.
Yeah, I see.
Came into office, I asked, right? I was like, all right, is there the lab somewhere where we're keeping the alien specimens in spaceship?
Notice he's not laughing.
They did a little bit of research, and the answer was no.
By the time he got to that, they did some research, and the answer.
I don't believe the answer was no. By the way,
look. Sometimes I have to just throw my hands up and go, I don't know.
I think if the answer was no, it would have been a much shorter story.
Right, he would have said no.
Exactly.
Not, I can't talk about this.
I've asked around. The answer was no.
Yeah.
I asked, and I got into office. I said, and they they made a small team together, and the answer is no.
Yeah. So the reason sometimes I have to do this is because my personal nightmare is one-word answers. So even if it took this long to get to the answer, all we got was this no. And it's like in that no, I'm not seeing much. I'm just getting this no.
Yeah.
He's not elaborating on this no.
He's just stalling the no.
Right. He's stalling and then this no. So the stall is interesting to me, but that no is just a direct one-word answer.
Okay.
And let's keep going and see if I get some more on something else.
But what is true?
That's the second time we got. Here's the truth. What is true? So wait, was that not true?
Good catch. Yeah, when he goes, here's the truth, and then he goes, the answer is no.
But here's what's true.
Whoa. Yeah, that was definitely a lie, dude. We caught him.
You have a lot more confidence than I do.
We caught the president, dude. Let's go.
I think this video is going to double as your training as a behavioral analyst.
I'm actually being serious.
And I'm actually being serious.
I'm actually being serious here. Whoa.
So here's this one answer, but here's what is true, and I'm actually being serious here.
He's doubling down on the fact that he just told a lie.
So actually is what we call a qualifier, right? When you qualify your statement.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of me just going, I was at the gym. Well, no one's going to believe I was at the gym. I was at the restaurant on Thursday. I was actually at the restaurant on Thursday. So actually, almost always, I don't speak in absolutes, but almost always indicates some kind of internal conflict, some kind of inner debate, right? If I come back from that said restaurant.
I was literally at the restaurant.
Right.
Might have been another one.
Right. So to be honest with you, I was at the restaurant. But actually it's a really special one because
Here's the truth. I was at the restaurant.
Yeah. God. If I come back from that restaurant and you say, how was it? How was the food? And I go, it was actually really good. That indicates that even I was surprised.
All right.
Inner conflict. I thought it wasn't going to be, but it actually was.
It's not what we're seeing here, though.
No. I want to make another really big note about a lot of what I'm saying. I keep saying baseline. It's very important because I know people who talk with qualifiers a lot. To be honest with you, on Thursday I was really tired, and when I went home, and to tell you the truth, I sat down to watch TV, and frankly, I couldn't get up after that. Some people speak that way. Mm-hmm. With him, we're not getting all that before, but all of a sudden, to tell you the truth, here's what's
tripling
true. Actually, yeah. One more thing I want to throw in. I know I'm full of caveats, but I have to be thorough. The research has shown this by Paul Ekman. The behaviors of people who fear not being believed are the same as the behaviors of people who are lying. Take a second.
Fear not being believed are the same as people who are lying. Right. Okay. So they're both nervous about what they're saying.
Right.
Because they want you to believe either way.
Correct. So
they want you to believe them or they want you to believe them.
In an interview or interrogation room, my number one of my big priorities.
The reason. So hold on.
Yeah.
Let me dissect this for a second.
Go ahead.
The reason they want you to believe them differs, but in both cases they want you to believe them.
Correct.
It's just the reason that changed.
Yeah, but I don't.
And you can't tell the difference.
Correct. Behaviorally,
because they both cause stress.
exactly. So in an interrogation or interview room, one of the most important things is to be non-judgmental. At no point do we show the person that we suspect anything, because if we do and they feel like they have to convince us, now they're going to start to feel and look like a liar.
It's a bias.
Exactly. So the research showed that people who are scared you won't believe them behave like liars, because a truth teller just tells you the truth. That's it. This is the truth. They just tell. They don't care about how it's perceived because they know it's true.
Right.
When you're lying, you know it's not true, so you have to sell it more. If you feel or fear that you're not going to be believed, you have to sell it more.
Right.
So behaviorally, they look the same.
Right.
And it's already hard enough as is.
But that's why we're looking for clusters.
That's why we're looking for clusters. But even if you see those clusters in somebody that fears not being believed, they might still have those clusters.
Right.
Because they're still, oh my God, was that believable? Are they still not going to believe me? You know what I mean? So it's already really tough waters to navigate, plus that. So I'm just throwing that in as a way to tell you
either
guys.
way, in this specific scenario, he's either doubling down on this is real because he wants us to believe it.
Yeah.
Because he's either lying or because he's telling the truth, right?
Because he knows that.
But then why would he double down after the double down?
It's interesting.
That's the part that is sus. It's not the doubling down, but it's the quadrupling down.
Yeah, because he said, we're going to look at it again now, because he said, this is the truth, blah, 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 no. Then, but what is true, and I'm actually being serious here.
But what is true is also wild.
Yeah, because is, and we know this from cold reading, right?
It's not and.
Yeah, and exactly. Dude, I love that you know this. And is we add, but is we shift gears.
Yeah.
So, but what is actually true? So no. So let me kind of play devil's advocate here for a second to kind of defend this for 1 second. Maybe what he's saying is, no, there isn't this, but what there is this.
Right.
So maybe that's what the but is. Right? Because he's about to tell us there have been people who saw certain things.
Yeah, but then he goes, and actually I'm being serious. Like, that's so
that's the
sus.
part that for me is a little more what
so
is
like,
true, and
but
I'm
what is
actually
true,
being serious,
and
I'm actually being
be-
serious here.
Yeah, so like...
So were you not being serious before?
Yeah, of course not. All right,
so let's look at that. Let's just go back just a little bit.
Let's do it.
They did a little bit of research, and the answer was no. But what is true, and I'm actually being serious here, is that there's footage and
you know what I just caught?
If I point a gun to you, and you need to non-verbally tell me that you're innocent, what are you doing? Show me with your whole body. I point a gun. Yeah, hands shoot up. It's a reflex that we have to show that I've got nothing to hide. Now, usually it's palm outwards, but whenever you see these hands come up and someone come to life up here, and somebody who doesn't normally, when he talks, sometimes one hand is up here, and we do often see a little bit of this, but the fact that both hands shoot up like this and in frame, very often it's like this presentation.
Right.
We see this a lot, and we saw this a lot with Andrew Garfield when he denied being in the No Way Home. His hands came up and he was like, look, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And very often we see this, I'm innocent here. There's nothing going on. I don't know much. So it's interesting that the hands are shooting up here. And all of a sudden, we weren't before, but we're seeing both hands up and in front here taking center stage to really present this.
Also, what I just picked up on is when he goes, I'm actually being serious here. I think he was referring to because before he had said something and the audience laughed and he wasn't laughing.
Oh, interesting.
So that might have just been him being like, no.
Okay. You know what, dude? Great point.
That might be it.
Great point. Because they were laughing and he was like, no. And then Corden was really laughing a lot. So it could be him going, no, guys, listen, now this is the serious
exactly.
part.
Now I'm actually,
Dude,
I'm actually being serious here.
I love that came from your side and not my side. Yeah. Great, dude. Great call.
And records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have
that's recall.
An easily explainable pattern.
So
script.
That's script. It's recall and script, and I think it might explain why he was more comfortable 6 years before this, because again, it was more fresh, it was more recent.
Yeah.
This has been a while, and I think he's struggling to find, okay, what were those words I was supposed to say? What was the
trajectory, speed.
And we're seeing this hesitation, this stalling, those blinks in between. We see the recall, and by the way, we touched on this a little bit earlier. There isn't a I'm going to dispel this right now for anyone who may have read some bad sources. There is not a universal direction that we all look when we're being truthful or when we're making something up. It doesn't exist. I know people think there is, and I'm so sorry if I'm breaking this thing that you've been telling people for a while, but there is zero research
Even
to support
down?
that.
Even like,
So
like shamefully.
I
like-
love that. That's the one thing that I find has the most pattern, is that in sadness or in inner monologue, not everyone, but it's the one thing that I see the most consistently in shame or sadness or low, like negative things we go down. But I don't even think that's a gaze. I think that's your head going down and your eyes with it.
Right.
But also in inner monologue, when we talk to ourselves, I see this a lot.
Or shame.
Yeah. Some people do it upwards. Some people inner monologue like this, but I see this very commonly. But besides that, the whole left is truthful, right? Listen,
Doesn't exist.
I'm a mentalist who does cold reads. Again, I think I've logged more hours looking at someone's face with the knowledge of whether they're lying or telling the truth.
I'm convinced.
Tell a story, and there's no pattern.
Great.
Some people recall like this.
I love hearing that. Like that's something. That's probably one of the, like that show Lie to Me.
Yeah.
That's probably like, because that was a great show, by
there was
the
a
way.
lot
It
of-
shouldn't have got canceled.
Great nuggets of truth in there.
Yeah, but also that probably didn't help what you're doing.
No.
A lot of myths were probably created because of that, right?
I have a love and hate relationship with it because it created the awareness of the body of work on nonverbal communication.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, that work is there. But even the guy, Paul Ekman, who discovered a lot of this, and then people built on his work for years, he will even tell you it's not that specific, you know? And plus you have Tim Roth, an insane actor.
Yeah.
But, to make it dramatic and interesting, it's like, oh, the squint of disgust when he said that. Go. This is where the thing is happening, or whatever it is. You can't make those leaps.
Right.
And I know that it's frustrating because some people will watch it and go, okay, well, your conclusions aren't always very firm, but that's the point.
That's the point, yeah.
Like sometimes it is. Sometimes
It's
I go,
not as romantic, but that's the reality
exactly.
of it. Okay.
And I'd rather stick to the truth than to try to sell something that isn't true. But there we saw recall with him.
Yeah.
As he was trying to recall the words of what I'm supposed to say about this and how I'm supposed to, the trajectory. And what we see, and the really interesting thing there is we see the stress manifest in his hand because what started off as open palm gestures turns into a fist.
Yeah, and this is also a very presidential thing to do. A lot of presidents do this.
An
Seems to
easily
be the-
explainable
Strength.
pattern.
Yeah.
And so,
And one of the things about this, and I don't know if this is training, is research has found that one of the most negative hand gestures is this. When someone talks like this, the perception of the audience is the most negative. The reason for that is because this reminds us of a weapon, like evolutionarily.
Right.
Anytime somebody has a stick, a sword, it's confrontational.
Right.
We actually
Like
call it
holding something.
Yeah, we actually call it batoning, like a baton. You tell someone off like this. Don't do that again. So a tip that a lot of speakers give is instead of doing this, just bring it in and touch the finger, or bring it in and touch the thumb like this.
Yeah.
Because it's less aggressive to do this than to do
Yeah,
this.
Italians.
Yeah. No.
All right.
I think that people still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what that is. But I have nothing to report to you today.
Not today. Another time.
Not today.
Unless, that. See, here's the question: Reggie might secretly be an alien, right? You remember in Men in Black? And so when he asks all these questions, he's deflecting. Think about it.
So ironic that you would call Reggie out for deflecting.
Right.
That seems like a little subconscious coming out.
Yeah, interesting. You use the word deflecting. Mr.
Yeah,
Deflector.
that wasn't the right word.
Right, exactly.
That was not the right word to
'Cause Reggie-
describe Reggie. That wouldn't be deflecting.
No,
That-
it's throwing people off his scent.
yeah, exactly. It wouldn't, or it would be, that would be him being like undercover or something.
Right,
not
right, right.
deflecting.
He's not deflecting. Because
Who's
he
deflecting is the guy talking about movies when he's being asked about aliens. That's who's deflecting.
Right, because Reggie wasn't asked anything.
And also, I think coming off of what you said, where he's trying to recall things that he can't remember and he's uncomfortable and he hears himself stuttering, now he wants to regain control of the conversation because he is a charismatic guy. So all of a sudden he jumps to something he knows, pop culture. Let's go to that. Let's go to jokes. Let's throw it to Reggie. Let's deflect.
Yeah.
Have this thought.
Do we know what he looks like behind those glasses? Right? I mean, his eyes might blink in the wrong direction.
All right, those of you who believe in reptilians, all right,
Reggie's one of them.
pipe up because now Obama, he already knows. Blinking in the wrong directions, that's a whole reptilian thing, dude.
Why does he know that?
How does he know that? That's what I'm saying.
So that's a question that everybody can think about for a second.
Reggie is
Maybe
Talk
that's
about
his-
deflection. When you're deflecting, Because now he's saying that's the question you could all think
there
about.
we go.
That's what you should think about.
Yeah.
Right? Not the fact that I was just asked as an ex-president one of the most important questions, but the fact that Reggie might be Man in Black alien.
Yeah.
That's what you guys should be thinking about.
And maybe he's actually throwing us a bone, and maybe he's like, they're among us.
The reptilians.
Yeah, the shapeshifters. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, let's go next clip. Or are we? Let's
wrap this one up.
Wrap it up on Obama.
A lot of refusal to answer. Falling with the second clip more than the first one. Seeing those signs of stress and falling apart with the answer. Searching for those words a lot more. A one-word denial. I like the fact that you afterwards had ulterior justifications for the no. Here's the serious thing, guys. I'm being serious because we do say that when others are laughing. So great point there. Overall, listen, it seems very in line with what Trump said, right? That people have said to them things about things moving in weird ways or looking weird, but beyond that, not much information.
I do think that he's having conversations that he shouldn't be having with people. I think that's one thing I took away from this, because when he definitely said, there's things that I can't say on air. If you said there's things that I can't say, that means you're having those conversations with other people. If you say there's things that I can't say on air, that means you're not supposed to have these conversations. There's conversations you're having that you're not supposed to be having, is what I'm saying. So either you're talking to people who are giving you information, who are, supplying you with information that you shouldn't be getting, or you're giving information to people that shouldn't be hearing it.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
If I come to you and ask you for something and like we're in a group and you go, I can't tell you now.
Yeah.
That means you're going to tell me later.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something to tell.
All right, who are we going to now? Bush. All right.
This is his book. It is called Portraits of Courage, and we will go through this and talk about some of the veterans who you painted and you wrote about. But first, I want to ask you, this is a question that I think is very important to me and very important to the country. When you were in office, and I don't know when this happened or if it happened, did you...
I know we've watched this, and he's a little tight-lipped, but when he goes, but first I want to ask you something, he goes off script.
Who does?
Kimmel.
Right.
And I think George recognizes it.
Oh.
And he adjusts his tie.
Let's see. Wow, great catch. Because I didn't even start paying attention until the aliens came on.
Talk about some of the veterans
and he looks
that
down
you
and he
painted
kind of
and you wrote about. But first I want to ask you, this is a question that I think is very important to me and very important to the country. When you were in office and
he perks
he's
up,
like,
and he perks up and he nods. It gives that nod of permission. Okay, let's
and
go.
he's also kind of like, God damn it. Like why is he going off
where's
script?
this
No matter
going?
what the question is, he's
Right.
like, all right, here we go.
Well, yeah, because I mean, listen, as an ex-president, he's probably used to getting like ambushed with a question.
Yeah.
So,
But he's probably a little contemptuous because Kimmel was probably very strictly briefed by his handlers. Like, hey, stick to the script.
Yeah.
No off script.
Yeah.
That for sure you're told that. Like, you're probably not told what not to say, but you're probably told to stick to a script, especially with an ex-president.
I know that we both have a lot of experience doing interviews, televised interviews and things like that. In your experience, because I definitely have an answer to this, but in your experience, were you in often cases given your questions ahead of time? Or
No.
Yeah, same here. So in most cases,
but we're not political figures.
Correct. So we both on massive platforms, and there are times where it's happened. There are times where they said, "Here's what you're going to talk about. Here are the questions." There are times where they give the list of questions. There are times where they say, "Here are the topics they're going to talk about." But in a lot of cases, no clue. I would assume that in a case like this, the topic would have been vetted, but maybe not necessarily every single question.
I think it would have been.
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely think so, because I don't think. Unlike a lot of the celebrities that go there, he probably showed up with 10 people.
Right.
And there's all sorts of people that control everything, every move, every look, because anything he says could affect some other person's chance to be president. Like he speaks for an entire party, he speaks for like an entire like political thing. So
let me ask you. Why did Kimmel ask the question?
Because he's curious. He's asked multiple times. He's asked multiple presidents this question. He's genuinely curious about the subject. I think Kimmel is a fan of the UAP subject. He's had people on that have talked about it, and I think he really wants to know.
Okay. But you're right, in terms of gestures, we see this kind of, looking down, grooming. We talked about grooming earlier. It's kind of getting ready for something. Okay, I don't know what this is, but let's see. Perks up. And there's even this little quick nod of like, okay, go ahead with your question.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
quick, like, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Let's get on with it.
Let's do it.
I don't know when this happened or if it happened. Did you go through the secret files, the UFO documents? Because if I was president, that'd be the first thing I did.
That was pretty quick. Maybe. Vague, obviously.
I love that he knows if he said no,
we wouldn't believe him.
it would sound like a lie.
Yeah.
And he weighed the option of yes, not allowed to do that. So, his brain went straight to in between, went maybe, and now he's kind of dealing with the repercussions of whatever that means. He doesn't know what that entails, but he's like, all right, how did that sound?
This is a great pause because if you look at the inner corners of the eyebrows, they're moving up, and you can see these lines at the top of the forehead, and this is very consistent actually with
contemplative.
Sadness.
Oh yeah.
When we're so contemplative would typically go more downwards like this, but in sadness. This actually, like, if you showed me this, right? This
kind of regrets that answer.
Yeah, if you showed me this exact freeze frame and said, "Is this positive or negative?" That's negative.
Yeah.
The corners of the mouth are turned downwards. You could see a slight U at the top of the chin here, but that's not the important thing because that's baseline for him. Because he's often compressing the lips, we often see that on the chin. But if you look at those eyebrows and look at the eyes, they look sad. Look, give me something. Look at that upper face.
Yep.
Tell me, those look sad.
Yep.
Grieving or sad. So I think that's what it is. He's going maybe, and then he's like, "Well, that wasn't the right answer.
That didn't sound." Yeah, and he's like, "I got to live with that."
That ain't it. Yeah. It's just interesting that in this one freeze frame, we're seeing what's consistent typically with nothing positive.
Yeah. It looks like he's delivering bad news.
Exactly.
Yep.
And maybe if you condense, like, I can't say can't talk about that. Maybe is a one-word version of that.
It is, but it's a terrible choice.
It's a bad choice. But this is such an interesting pause here.
My daughters asked the very same question.
They did?
Yeah.
Would you be allowed to tell your daughters what was in those files?
No.
You would not?
No.
Now that you're out of
Truthful.
office, you can do anything you want, right?
True. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just looking at
But
this
I'm
and
not
realizing that
You're
in
not
that
telling
whole,
that
in
you're
this
out of
whole,
office.
you know what?
You can do anything you want, right?
True. Yeah.
I think it's baseline, that expression of
But I'm not
sadness.
telling you.
You're
Because
not,
look, even here,
Yeah.
those inner corners are up, those lines are on the forehead. I think he just
And
has.
so is the tight-lippedness.
It's all, yeah. You know what? I'm realizing now, looking at this, that George Bush has
Just
a
looks
sad face.
Looks like a sad man.
And it's, I don't know. But you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because, and I'll back this up with the research.
It's almost like he's done some bad stuff.
I'll back this
Who
up with
knows?
the research. The research shows that the inner corners coming up like this and activating the muscle that's called the glabella up here that causes these lines that dip.
Yeah.
Very few people could fake it, so congrats, it's not bad. But when we're sad, and all over the world we see this, it's those inner corners that come up like this, but the difference is the outer corners stay neutral. As opposed to with surprise or with emphasis or with eyebrow flashes, the whole eyebrow goes up. Well, it's not just the inner corner. And it's very hard to fake. I'm sure a lot of the viewers are trying right now.
Yeah.
And in the comments, you'll get
I'm
people
also
going,
like-
yeah. And in the comments, you'll get people saying, I could totally do it. I find that 8 times out of 10 people who say they can do it actually can't. They just think they're doing it. You're actually doing it.
Yeah, just like,
Yeah, but you have a very extensive acting background.
I wouldn't say extensive.
You were in
Not as much as George here.
You were in Spiral.
That's true.
So do they know that?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, this is very hard to fake, and he naturally has eyebrows that go down. I call them the Atari eyebrows.
Yeah.
So he naturally has Atari eyebrows.
Right, he does.
Do people know what Atari means?
Yeah.
You know.
I know Atari, the video game.
You're into all this old stuff. Atari was the first first
the logo
gaming
was
console.
kind of like
the logo
these sad
was
eyebrows.
These eyebrows.
Okay.
So that might make me take back what I said a little earlier in that freeze frame because
Yep.
it seems that
Fair
it's
enough.
very much part of his
Good
face.
point, though.
You're not telling.
See, even when he's smiling,
You're not telling me
Yeah.
what? Are you not telling me that you looked at them?
I'm not telling you nothing.
Now he's very happy with his answer.
yeah, but his eyebrows are
Really
still kind of.
great secrets that you
Hold on,
know
go back.
You can't share.
There's a cut.
There was a cut.
Ooh,
Good catch.
there was a cut.
The
Go
editor
back,
in
go
you.
back more, go back more. They cut something out. Do you notice that?
But it's mid laughter.
Look,
How's
look.
that happening?
His head's down, and now it's back. Yeah, they cut something out. That's why they swapped camera angles there.
Could it just be like?
No, that's his team.
Oh,
1,000%. That's his team being like, yeah, maybe cut that out.
yeah. The way I do with you,
Yeah,
like cut what I'm about to say out.
yeah, 100%.
Okay. Listen.
No, 100%. They
No,
cut something
I
out.
see the guy. We
Yeah.
both YouTube. I know what
Yeah.
an edit looks like. But it's interesting how he was still laughing. So is it possible that they did it live in that moment?
Could have been just he made a distasteful joke or something.
Okay.
Could have been something like that too.
Let's hear but you know what I was gonna say, let's hear the audience reaction, but that's just added. So
yeah, but you hear the audience also like.
Do you?
Yeah.
Are there really great
Oh no, there's an
secrets that
overlap.
you know that
It's
you can't share with
weird.
people?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are. And you never write about them.
No.
Maybe at a
thanks for
time in
time.
your life that
No.
you're like, oh, I'm 90, I'm gonna do it.
No.
No, nothing. What if you were to get like a little like loopy, you know, you get old and
Start drinking
you
again?
start
Presidents don't get loopy. Do they?
No.
Start drinking again. Guillermo, get some tequila.
You want to?
All right. Hey,
Listen,
I think he did a great job.
look, it's going back to what I said earlier. The refusal to answer is a stalemate.
Yep.
Because what do you want me to analyze? There was no answer.
And that's probably what made him a real good keeper of secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's go back to what I said earlier. I said, if I were to ask you, is there alligators in your attic? And you were to say, I can't comment on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a no.
Maybe.
Right. Why isn't it no?
Yeah.
That's my,
There obviously is something.
but
that
that's
we're
not
aware
that's
of.
not me giving an answer. It's just me asking a question like, why isn't it no?
That seems to be the through line with every single president is that not one of them is denied anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know what? I love that you did that. Let's look at all three presidents and what did we get? We have two of them that at some point. So what's interesting about Obama is 9 years ago, it was, I can't say a thing. 3 years ago, it was,
I can't say a thing on air.
can't say a thing on air, but I have heard stories about things that move in ways that we can't explain.
Yeah, and I can't say anything yet. Or
What's interesting is if you heard those stories during his presidency, when he was on Kimmel, he knew those stories, but didn't tell us.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. What we have, if we look at all three presidents,
well, all
is-
three of them weren't serving while they did these interviews.
Sure. But what we have is refusals to talk about it. And when it is being talked about, third party information or second party information. Is it second party? Yeah, they're the second party. Yeah. Second party information, second-hand information about pilots who have said they saw things that they can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we got.
That's what we got. But
And
we got confirmation that they're talking about this stuff and that they're briefed on it.
Yes.
Now, to what extent, we don't know.
seemingly truthful.
Out of all of the presidents, who do you think knows more about aliens?
Great question. I don't think it's Trump for two reasons. One, I think that knowing Trump's temperament,
Yeah.
they would be the most
They
careful
wouldn't have
what they
briefed
tell him.
Yeah.
Just because, like we
Sure.
know that he gets on TV and he talks about
And he
things.
might, he rants for 3 hours at his rally, so he might be like slip something up and
Right.
Yeah.
Also because of his background as like an entertainer, a public figure,
Yeah.
whereas the other two might understand discretion a little bit more. So I think that's one reason. And then the second reason, I just feel like in the way that he delivered that, there didn't seem to be an indication that there's much more than what he's saying. Because we would have gotten because it would be like Trump to say, well, there are some amazing things I'm not supposed to talk about.
That's right, yeah.
And then
many things.
They've
They've told me all the things.
They know all the things.
That's right, yeah.
We didn't get any of that. So
Unless he got like a stern warning.
it wouldn't matter to him. The
Yeah.
sensationalism of saying it on TV would matter more to him than.
Unless the aliens warned him.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You know what?
The aliens warned him. He might be like, I can't talk about it.
I think Bush and Obama seem to be more or less in the same area of the no.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All right.
And also think about the fact that if you're simply looking at time, there's more to know.
That's right.
So Obama would have more to know
Right.
than Bush, and Trump would have more to know than Obama.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So, but it's interesting that having said that, Trump seems to be the one who's suggesting that here are the stories. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is true. And that Obama almost gave up more than Trump did.
That is interesting. Yeah.
He
But
was
collectively,
skating on ice. Or?
yeah. So collectively, I feel like there's definitely truth in them having conversations with pilots who saw things that can't be explained.
Right.
I believe they believe those pilots. Pilots. I believe that they believe those pilots, especially in the way that Trump kept building up their credibility.
Yes.
I believe them, so you should believe them.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's truth to those.
And we probably even know some of those pilots. I mean, those might be the same pilots that we saw at the congressional hearing.
Correct.
Graves and
The
Fravor.
the congressional hearing.
That's right.
The congressional.
Yeah.
Rush.
Oh, congressional.
The
Oh, you made a
congressional.
pun there. All right, next, folks, we're going to be looking at this is an interview, a very famous interview this is where we transition from the presidents into the whistleblowers. First up, we have an interview here with George Knapp, and he is featured with John Lear. John Lear famously worked for the CIA. He was a pilot, and he was also the one who told George Knapp about Bob Lazar. So he is the original whistleblower before Bob Lazar, and this was like a part one of an interview they had. He says some wild stuff in this interview. We're just going to take one portion here and see if we can decipher it. You ready?
Yeah, but before we even look at this, my entire analysis of this segment is one word.
Yeah. What is it?
No, let's look at it another.
All right.
Picture together of where they came from and why they're here.
Well, the whole thing started in July 2nd, 1947. That was the first crash.
First crash of an alien spaceship.
Of an alien spaceship. July 6th is when they recovered it and sent it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. July 7th is when they held the press conference and told the people it was a weather balloon, which the press bought hook, line, and sinker. September of that year,
Looks like he's looking at a list right now.
MJ-12,
Yeah, does he have notes?
I think he might have notes on
was
this.
to study
that's impossible
the saucers
to determine
and cover up the existence of UFOs.
It does look like notes. He keeps shooting down to them as opposed to slow reflection.
4 from that particular crash.
Could be
Here's where he goes off script.
They autopsied him. Dr. Detlef Bronk was the chief surgeon, so to speak. He was the one that named them EBEs. It stands for extraterrestrial biological entities. And we captured 3 live EBEs. They were numbered in their order of capture: EBE1, EBE2, and EBE.
I'm just going to stop this because I think I know where you're going. Go ahead.
It's a script.
It's a script.
It's all a script, and whether it's a script, like I don't know when he's looking down, if he's got notes that he's looking down to. It certainly looks like that because he keeps shooting straight down, as opposed to this kind of dancing a little, looking down a little, or even slowly moving down to like try to recall. I'm not seeing a difficulty in recalling, but even besides that, even when he's looking up, the way he emphasizes those dates and those words and
the names,
the names, it's just a script.
He's done this a thousand
times,
yeah.
And we're certainly going to see that with other people as well. But at least we see little bursts of something I can latch onto.
Yeah, and
with
that,
him, it's a script.
That is something that is quite common with whistleblowers, but it's also common with, myself, I've done multiple podcasts talking about the experiences that I've had at the Monroe Institute, with the experience I've had with the Remote Viewing Project. And, people ask me, like, how'd you get started? And I would just run through this thing, and this story would get better and better as I tell it, and more refined. So I do understand that. So this might not be the best case, but I just don't. I have a really hard time finding anything with John Lear where it isn't this.
Yeah. So what would have to happen is the interviewer would have to know what questions he's often asked and ask him the unexpected questions that he's not often asked.
Right.
And just dig in, be like, okay, wait, hold on. When you said that, go back a little. What did you see before that?
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of, when we're testing truths, we do a lot of timeline jumps because if something actually happened in your day, and let's say, for example, the other day you tell me what you did. Like you had lunch and then you went to the office here and you recorded a podcast and then you went to the movies with a friend and then you went home. I can ask you, wait, sorry, where were you before the movies? You go to the office because you were there.
Right.
But if you're making it up, you have to go back, oh, wait, what was it? You have to really try hard to figure out what it was. So timeline jumps is a really, really, really good way of.
And in this case here, George seems to be more just interested in his story, not really interested in debunking his story, and that's totally fine. I mean, that's
all right.
That's still
so
doing
the answer
your
is,
job.
Am I seeing deception? No. But would I see deception? No. It's a script.
Fair enough. Moving on from John Lear. Next, we got Stephen Greer. Now, Stephen Greer is pretty infamous in this space. A lot of people, I'll keep my personal opinion about Greer aside because I haven't formed a complete one of him yet. I haven't met him. So I'd like to meet him. However, the work that I've seen from Greer, the only thing that kind of like always throws me off is there's a paywall. There's always a paywall. And that seems to really come up in the UFO community quite a bit. Is like, hey, if you're here to share this truth and with everybody, why should we have to pay to play? And so, that for me was like a bit of a flag, and obviously a lot of experiencers and stuff, they're selling books and people got to make a living. So I'm not against that. It just seems like this particular
it questions the integrity a little.
It does question it does bring the integrity into question. I would say so.
If you encountered something like that, you could for sure identify as something.
Yes.
You would want to scream it to the world.
Yeah.
Not for money.
Yeah. I mean, depends.
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. Yeah. Somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, we could write a book, and you New York Times bestseller." I might be inclined.
That's a good point. It might start one way, and then eventually you see the money, and you go, "Wow, this is good money." So I'm just going to keep doing this.
One thing I will say about Greer, now he's had some disclosure projects where he's brought up experiencers or people who've claimed they were abducted or worked on secret projects, special access projects, and that type of thing, and he's brought them forward. But when questioned in interviews like this, a lot of times what he tends to do is shotgun. He'll douse you with so much info that you don't have time to verify, and you're just getting steamrolled. And so he'll be like, "Oh, and this happened." You're like, "Really?" He's like, "Oh yeah, and another thing, and bam, 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 and another thing, and 3 other things, and you don't even believe with this story." And all of a sudden, he's just hitting you with 19 things that you can't fact check. And that, for me, just seems like somebody who's trying to avoid a conversation. So that's all I'm getting from that.
Well, people who tend to do that, one, are trying to establish themselves as an expert on the topic. I know so much. And we could talk about this, but there's so much more out there.
Right.
And that, whether they are or aren't an expert on the subject, I can't tell you, but they're trying to convey that. Yeah. But yeah, second of all, it is dodgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for all I know, maybe he does have a billion stories, that are all true. I don't know. I don't know the difference.
Yeah. So whenever I hear that, it's like, okay, well, it doesn't really make sense to me that when we're talking about something that's so rare, sighting a UFO is a rare occurrence. Mm-hmm. Why would one person? It's like somebody won the lottery 18 times.
Yeah.
Why was it always you? Why do you keep running into them?
Well, I think that's the whole premise of, what he's selling is that you can contact these beings and you can sort of summon them. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. All right.
Just because I want to know, have you personally, ever had contact? Well, let me rephrase that. Have you ever seen face-to-face an alien being?
So before we even look at his answer, can we look at how twitchy his face is? And this is baseline, right? Listen, I say baseline. I don't know what was happening before this interview, but within this question, it's baseline. So we're getting a lot of lip licking.
Yeah, blinking.
Blinking. We're seeing a lot of lip activity besides the blinking. Hard swallows. We saw, as the guy was asking, we saw the eyebrows come down. This curiosity, I'm curious about your question. But a lot of stuff going on just for someone who's listening to a question. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. That's what we're getting. I'm interested to know what's going to happen to this once he starts answering the question. And this is, in his case, a very rare occurrence that we're going to see what's going to happen. But again, all this stuff going on. And again, remember, lip licking, either stress, and we're correcting the dryness, or grooming. Here we go. I'm about to speak. Just getting some color on the lips to start. So anyways.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
How old?
And again with the lips.
Mm-hmm.
That was the event in 1973. So I was 18. I just turned 18.
Okay, so you're old enough to know the difference between right and wrong, between fantasy and reality.
Oh, yeah.
In the 70s.
I never do any drugs. This was not on LSD in the 70s.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask you. You're coming out of the 60s.
No.
LSD.
I never touched the stuff.
Just took place. You're not on any magic mushrooms.
We're not even at the story yet, but there's some really interesting stuff around that. So first we get a yes, absolutely. And he doesn't elaborate on it, right? He's asked, have you seen it?
Straight
yes,
facts.
absolutely. That's it. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Not, look, I saw something that I thought was an alien. No, yes, absolutely. I have seen an alien, confirmed. So that's indicating two things. One is this is likely, and we're going to elaborate more, but this is likely his truth. And I say his truth, what he thinks is true.
Yes.
Because he doesn't feel the need to embellish. He doesn't feel the need to oversell. Oh, yeah, you're going to this big pitch. Yep, absolutely. That's what happened.
Great.
Did you have breakfast today? Yes, absolutely. That's it. I don't need to sell it. So it's likely what he believes. Likely. The second is that he's prone. So earlier you said Occam's razor. There are people who lean more towards Occam's razor. There are people who lean more towards believing the fantastic, the hard to believe. This indicates that he's prone to that immediately because there's no caveats there. There's no, look, I saw something I couldn't explain. That's what if you told me, I would say, I saw something, to me it felt alien. I don't know if it was. Him, it's, yes, absolutely, it was an alien. End of story, end of discussion. So those are but then this whole drugs thing, what is going on here?
Yeah, I also noticed that like there was an immediate voluntarily denying something nobody asked. Voluntarily denying, he denied something, but then after that he went more specific into denying, like he said, I don't do drugs.
I never do any drugs. I wasn't on LSD in the 70s. So it went from this global statement, I never do any drugs, to a specific, I wasn't on LSD in the 70s.
Right.
But if you don't do any drugs, you also weren't on cocaine in the 80s.
That's right.
And you weren't on meth in the 90s.
That's right.
So what, like if I tell you I've never been to Europe, I've also never been to France.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to England. Like, you know, like so we have this big statement, and I wasn't on LSD in the 70s. So, but it's also weird how, the guy's asking, like, you were of an age that your mental state was fine, and he's bringing drugs into this.
Yeah, so it might make you question his recollection of it because he was so young, right? So it might have been a long time ago, and for him to deflect from that fact, because that fact is true, that it's hard to remember things that happened 40 years ago.
Yeah.
For him to deflect, and he goes, and I also never did drugs. I mean, I don't do LSD in the 70s.
Face touch, big sign of stress. So this was
laughing to the side,
big smile to the side, face touch. So face touching is something we look for a lot because University of Granada, there was research that showed that in stress and in deception, the blood flow of your face actually changes. They actually coined the term the Pinocchio effect. That when you are being deceptive, your nose negligibly actually grows. Because more blood flow goes to it. Because what's happening is, and
you might feel a tingle or an itch, and then that's
that's what might cause this kind of thing. Because the blood flow is shifting, and not always, by the way. But that's why we put in a cluster. Right. Are they scratching their forehead because there's just an itch there? Maybe. But if this is happening, this smiles, and all these weird things, it contributes to the cluster. So, listen, it's a weird answer. I'm wondering if maybe what's going on in his head is that he knows that he has critics who have said, oh, he was on drugs. He was doing drugs. He was doing LSD in the 70s.
Right.
So he is getting ahead of that criticism.
It already.
Because I do that sometimes, right? I throw caveats to my videos that I know my commenters are going to say because they've said it before.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just getting ahead of that criticism. It's possible, but there's something really weird about this whole drugs thing that he's volunteering that nobody asked.
Yeah, there is something there about a discomfort in discussing that. I feel like there's something there.
Anything at the time.
No.
Okay.
He just keeps denying it. No one asked.
Nope, definitely didn't do any drugs. Definitely not then, not now. Nope.
Not me, no.
No, not this guy.
Like,
not this guy.
It's like, hey, sir, we just asked if you wanted fries with that.
No, don't do drugs.
He's like, I don't do drugs.
Don't want any drugs in my fries. No, give me the fries. Don't give them drugs.
It's what it sounds like. It sounds kind of crazy.
Describe.
Actually, this ET I'm talking about is probably about 4 to 5 feet tall. I didn't know what the heck was going on.
Okay, now look at this. Keep watching.
And I was up on this mountain in outside Boone, North Carolina, up in the mountains. And this, at first I thought it was a deer on its hind legs looking at me. And because it had deer-like eyes. And it came over and touched my right shoulder so firmly I could see the indentation. And with that, there was an electromagnetic field. All my hair stood on. It's when I had hair. And all my hair stood on end. And it was this amazing event that happened.
Pause. Where's all the stress? Where's all these lip licks and these twitches and all these nervous and the big smile? It's like a different person when you went to this story.
Storytelling again.
Storytelling.
I would also say that the storytelling now that we're witnessing is akin to somebody recalling a magic trick.
Yeah.
Illustrators,
and you see his eyes going up and he's trying to repaint what he saw.
We also want you to feel like you were there, so we're going to make it more impossible, more magical in this case. Saying I touch it and you can see the indentation, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like, I mean, see the indentation?
The indentation of what?
Can you see through his finger? Like, what? That doesn't really make sense.
And there's another thing that doesn't make sense, and this is huge for me. He goes, my hair stood on end.
Yeah.
You don't know that. You know that it felt like your hair stood on end, but unless there was somebody else
That's a
there who
good
told
point.
you your hair was standing, you don't know.
That's
And
right.
in that moment, let's be honest, you're in where you're seeing this thing with deer like eyes. It's touching your arm. You're not. There's a lot going on for you to focus on your hair standing
Yeah,
on
that's
end.
that starts with I had goosebumps.
Right. So and then it
And
evolves.
then the further you tell it, it's like, oh, it was like electromagnetic field
Right,
I was standing
right.
on. Yeah.
And then he's got the joke back when I had hair.
Yeah.
And who knows when that happened? He told the story a couple of times, and then maybe it was him, or maybe somebody else said, "Oh, I guess you had hair back then." Oh, okay, let's write
That's
that
right,
into the
yeah.
story. So you're absolutely right. This is being told as a rehearsed thing that's been told again and again.
Yeah.
And
There's
I
beats to
believe
it.
that he believes it.
Yes.
But does that mean that that is in fact exactly what happened? We know the flaws of memory.
I think you can safely say like this divided by 5 is probably
Somewhere
around
where the truth is.
Yeah, what happened?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Is there some truth to this? I think he saw something that day, but all these details are not, for me, especially when you're giving imagery of what you want me to see. My hair stood on end. That means you want to paint an image for me.
That's
looking at you with your
right.
hair
Good
standing on end.
point.
That's not your experience of it.
No, that's what I'm trying to implant in your
Yeah,
mind.
exactly.
Wow, what a good point. That's
Yeah.
such a great point. And
Thank you.
he is. I mean, that's this isn't uncommon for people who are telling fantastical stories. There's so much to draw from with UFOs and magic when you hear people talk about their experiences, because there's a lot of similarities how people talk about both. They're both seemingly impossible to outsiders, but now it's not impossible because it happened to me. And so I want to convey this unimpossible thing. I want to make this impossible thing possible for you. And so I have to like lay the groundwork and like, yeah, exactly. And like, this is how it felt for me. This is how it should feel for you. And it really is close to telling what a magic trick. Because if I set up, a deer that looked like an alien and all this, and like, and dressed him up, and then like, this story might sound similar to that, to actually encountering an alien. Like there's, magical element to this and being magicians, we can spot that, which I think is really cool for us, because I think a lot of people might miss that, especially when you're reading these books of people who have had encounters, or you're hearing them lecture or hearing them on podcasts. Remember to take everything, and even what I say, by the way, that is something really important as well, is that I myself also do this.
Yeah.
I think it's in human nature to want to refine a story so that A, the audience isn't bored to death, you know what I mean, and B, we do want to make it more fantastic for a various number of reasons. So although I try to, especially with what I've been doing lately, I try to document it as it happens, so you guys aren't getting like some diluted tale. But definitely, if you see me on podcasts, know that the story might evolve over time, and that's just how humans are. We're not immune to it.
No.
But it is something that even this gentleman here probably didn't even pick up on his own stories, because he's so used to telling it and just and eroding it over time, or rounding out the edges over time, that you wouldn't notice, right? So it's not like it's his fault. I'm not saying that he's lying or anything like that. I'm saying that like stories do change over time.
Yeah, and there are endless research studies on the fallacies of memory.
Yeah.
Do you know the hot air balloon study?
No.
So they brought in a bunch of college students who they had asked their parents if they've ever been on a hot air balloon as a kid.
And
And
I have heard of this.
They brought in a bunch of students who had never been in a hot air balloon.
Yes.
And they showed them a bunch of pictures and said, for each one, just tell us any memory you have associated to this. And if you don't remember, that's fine too. And some of them, the hot air balloon would say, no, I don't really remember this one or whatever. That wasn't the point. Others might. That doesn't matter. They looked at these pictures. They followed up. X amount of time later, they went back and said, we're going to ask you some more questions about these things. And when asked about being on a hot air balloon, they had these vivid memories.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was with my dad. We had hot dogs. And this is one of so many studies, and I could sit here for 3 hours and keep listing them, that show us without doubt that our memory is flawed.
Yes.
It's built for survival, not for accuracy.
Of course.
So as we try to remember things, even things think about the number of times you talk about something with a family member from a couple of years ago where you both remember it very differently. And they're sure that they remember it the way they do. And you're like, no, that person wasn't even there.
I would say the only time that this differs
when it's documented.
When there's trauma.
There's research that would contest that.
Yeah, well, I mean, trauma does absolutely like blur the lines because you black out, like, and things might appear differently.
But you mean something that was so traumatic for you that you like locked it in your memory.
Yeah, that there are some things that are just
I would agree
that people are traumatized by, and they have no need to exaggerate,
right?
Because the circumstances are what they are, and they affected that person the way they were.
I agree. So I would say in cases of something that emotionally affected you,
yeah,
that core moment tends to be true. Everything surrounding it might be embellished. The way things were said might be embellished. But that core memory, I do agree with you. If it had this effect on you, tends to be like almost like frozen in time in your memory. But everything surrounding it could be off.
Because a lot of time with real trauma, what happens too with people is that they don't remember.
Correct.
They'll, instead of making something up, they'll literally say, I don't remember. It could have been this. It could have been that. I was panicked. I might have blacked out. Like they'll never make rarely make something up. They'll just kind of like say what it is.
100%. There's a case that's so fascinating, and if the woman's name doesn't come to mind, but if you guys want, your subscribers will ask you. You'll ask me, and I'll send it to you. She was I don't want to say these words because YouTube will block content for this, but horrible crimes were committed. To her.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the worst stuff.
Yeah,
that keeps you alive.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, yeah. Okay. You guys got it? So I don't want to make light of this.
No.
So this thing happened to her. Immediately after, she went to the police station, and they showed her a bunch of photographs of potential culprits. And she pointed to one. This is the guy. During the trial, they brought that guy that she pointed to and the guy who'd actually done it. And when asked, point at the person who did this, she pointed the person from the photograph, not the person who actually did it. Because when having seen that photograph, the person who actually did it wasn't amongst those pictures. She now, as she remembered this traumatic event, replaced that person's face with the person in his photograph.
Right.
When DNA testing came about, they discovered exactly who it was. It was the other guy in the courtroom.
Yeah.
But she was looking at the guy and saying it wasn't him, it was this guy.
Right.
This is also, by the way, the reason they don't do lineups anymore.
Right.
Because what ends up happening is they will take that person and replace it in their memory.
Yes.
At the crime scene.
Right.
So memory's flawed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're getting here, an example of, I can't tell you what actually happened.
Bit of an embellishment.
Yes.
And
he believes this happened.
Yeah.
But this indentation, my hair was standing on end. And
yeah. Yeah, that all seems a little extra.
You're selling me something.
Yeah, it's extra for no reason to be extra. Either it's true or it isn't.
Yeah.
Either tell me you saw an alien or you didn't, but now you saw an alien and it's touching. You can see where it touched me still to this day, 40 years later. Look, you can still come on.
It still feels warm.
All right.
Can we just go back a little? I just want to listen to that stretch one more time and then we'll move on from it.
So firmly, I could see the indentation. And with that, there's electromagnetic.
That's what happens when people touch you.
But you see the indentation.
Yeah, that's what happens when people touch you.
I see the indentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something touched him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what happens when people touch you.
That's how touch
you don't have to go
works.
into detail.
Right.
You're like, yo, somebody kicked me, and like, oh, you could feel his shoe on my shin. Like, I mean, yeah, that's what happens when people kick you.
Field, all my hair stood on. It's when I had hair. And
all my hair
stood on end. And it was this amazing event that happened with this being.
And look at even the way he said, even though he said, all my hair stood on end.
When he says being, yeah, like on end, and then he goes being, and he goes, do you notice that?
No.
With this being.
Ooh, let's see that.
I had hair, and all my hair stood on end, and it was this amazing event that happened with this being. So,
kind of like,
it was not at all frightening to me.
So breath, maybe. He does a lot of weird stuff with the mouth, so I'm kind of putting on his baseline.
What the interest of that particular experience, those ETs was a young guy, 18, who had a near-death experience, who understood consciousness and understood the central role.
Resume statement.
Yeah, we're not going to learn any more from this. I think we're getting back into story, back into scripting.
But this is all script.
Yeah.
And we saw that shift from when you went to all this activity and all this kind of stress, all this laughing and face touching and all of a sudden he goes to script.
Yeah,
and we're getting all these big gestures and all this. Yeah.
And that, that comes from a deep psychological need to be liked as well. Like we do a lot of that because we're like, hey, we want people to like us. So we want to put our best foot forward. And
I do want to talk about really quick before I move on. There's a paradox in body language, and some people may have caught it there, where I said, when he's embellishing, his gesture are coming to life. And earlier I said that, and a lot of research backs this up, that a lot of people who are deceptive move less. And somebody might look at it and go, oh, hold on now. Does it mean we're deceptive or we move less or we move more? And the truth of the matter is, because people lie differently, sometimes opposite things could both indicate deception, right?
Right.
Because think about it. We said liars sometimes are stressed. When I'm stressed, I don't want to call attention to myself. But we also said that liars sometimes try to sell you a story. When I do that, I come to life more. So it really depends on context.
And what your baseline is.
Well, your 100% baseline. Yeah. So somebody who never moves all of a sudden is trying to sell me this narrative. Well, that's sus.
Right.
But somebody who normally does all this, all of a sudden they're answering a question like this. Okay, well, why is this different?
Mm-hmm.
So change is so much more important than stagnant behaviors or universal behaviors when it comes to this.
Right.
And one of my good friend and one of the most accomplished authors and teachers of body language and interrogation, Greg Hartley, says we are detectors of change. Mm-hmm. We don't detect lies, we detect change.
I mean, naturally, that's what our brains are meant to do.
Of course.
It's what we're naturally inclined to seeing. And so I think that's why subtly, psychologically, unconsciously, we pick up on change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? We just, because like when you can feel sometimes when someone's lying to you, even though you might not be an expert and pick it up.
No, something in your gut.
Exactly. We're prone to noticing change.
Because your subconscious picks up so much and learns so much at a rate that, you can't really consciously
training your intuition.
100%.
All right. This next clip is the Las Vegas alien story.
I'm very familiar with this case.
So this case came about, what was it, last year, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
It made the rounds. There was this meteor that crashed down and in Vegas, and there was a 911 call, said there was these 10-foot tall beings in this person's yard.
Well, it started at 8, then 9, then 10.
Ah, yeah.
On the phone call,
even
it was 8.
even I'm fooled.
Yeah.
Let's watch the clip, and here's the interview with the kid who called the cops.
Yeah. The alien, whatever you guys want to call it. The alien demon, whatever you guys want to call it.
What do you believe it is?
A demon.
A demon?
Yeah.
So maybe that's changed, that once you thought it was an alien, now you believe it was a demon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is, only God knows what it was. But I'm thinking it's like...
Sorry, before we go on.
Even the reporter noticed that there was an inconsistency.
Right, so before we go on, he thought it was an alien at first. Now he thinks it's a demon, but he didn't get any new intel between the two. This is all based on the same sighting.
Yes.
And then he doesn't know what it is. Only God knows.
Yeah.
So that's just a little note.
Something bad, not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
Was it moving? Was it doing?
Yes, it was moving. You could see he was breathing, he was like pissed off, like he wanted to do something.
And he was looking at you and your brother?
He was looking at me, yeah.
Did he say anything?
Mm-mm. I remember he was growling like a dog, like he was growling.
What?
It's the first time I ever hear of that.
Yeah, so the story, so I covered this on my channel when it happened, and there was already some differences in the story between the 911 call and when the cops showed up. The alien had grown a little.
In that short time.
The alien had gone from, because initially he said something like 8, maybe 9, maybe 10 feet. By the time the cops got there, it was 10 feet. Mm-hmm. There was no more, maybe 8 or 9.
Right.
This growling wasn't in the 911 call, nor did he say this to the cops when they showed up. The looking pissed off is interesting because in the phone call, he described the eyes, but he never talked about
angry
intention or emotion.
Yeah.
So that seems like, but again, look, I'm not saying the guy's making this up. I'm just saying as he thought about it, the image of it may have changed to where now as he thinks back, he sees a little bit more of that anger in his memory.
And it might just be his own fear he's projecting onto that thing.
100%.
Because if you're an alien, how do you even detect, and at one point, which is funny, he does talk about sort of this telepathic hold he has on him. Well, if it's telepathic, it wouldn't need facial features.
Correct.
Right? You wouldn't need to be like, if you know what I'm thinking, I'm angry. I don't need to have the muscles in my face to prove that I'm angry anymore.
Right. So something that, exactly, like something that's that advanced that could have a telekinetic hold on you But now we're describing it with human emotions. That's
right.
an assumption. To assume that something is angry. How do I know if your houseplant is angry?
Yeah.
I don't know what houseplants behave like or think or experience. I don't
It
know.
starts growling like a dog.
Probably.
All right.
When did it end?
As soon as I closed my eyes, I guess. I don't know. I think I was praying or something like that, and they just let me go. That's when I went inside, and I saw my dad. My dad saw it too.
My dad saw it too. So see, he needs that. He's bringing that alibi. My dad saw it too.
Yeah, and then I guess, and I don't know,
I guess,
and all
I guess it
ending in
ended when-
questions.
yeah, and I'm trying to remember if in that initial call he said that him and his brother or something were out there. Where's this? Why isn't his brother like my dad saw it too? But from what I recall, I could be wrong about this, guys, but from what I recall, he said that initially him and his brother saw it, and then his dad came out afterwards and also saw some of it. But I think I recall him saying that his dad never saw the alien or demon, but just the vessel. It's the vessel, because that was too far. But now it seems like he's suggesting his dad saw the thing.
Yeah,
too,
my dad saw it too.
Yeah,
Go ask him. Stop asking me questions.
Yeah, but the brother isn't involved anymore.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be the brother? My brother was with me.
Yeah, this guy seems to be the only one saying anything out of the entire family, by the way.
Where are they?
The rest of the family is probably like, I don't know.
Anyways, let's see.
Felt like it had a control of your body?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't move. Yeah.
You were paralyzed at the sight of this thing.
Yeah, I couldn't move.
And you were looking at it for 30 or so seconds, and then all of a sudden it was gone?
Yeah. That was pretty creepy.
A lot of people think that that's just hard to believe.
Like I said again, they can think whatever they want.
What do you say to the people who believe that your family just made this whole thing up to try to get attention?
They can believe whatever they want, I'm not doing it for if I did it for fame, I would be on YouTube and stuff like that, doing more videos, but I don't care, guys. I just went on TikTok and YouTube, made my story. That's pretty much it. I made no money off this. I want people to know that I made no money off this. I don't need money. That's pretty much it. They can believe whatever they want.
So his body language is saying a lot there.
It is and it isn't.
So he's starting here.
Yeah. So let's talk about this arm crossing thing, because it's kind of misconstrued. So if I'm at the grocery store and I see someone waiting in line like this, can I immediately assume that they're stressed or nervous or blocking? No. It most cases it's comfort. So because we all stand like this to be comfortable. Now, if I'm talking to someone about something and they're like this, and all of a sudden they go into this, especially if I see a lot of closeness, I see a lot of tension.
Yeah,
that could be something.
Oh, I see.
But just this typically comfort.
We didn't see
the shift. We
We
don't know how we got into this position.
That's right.
Can you argue that there's this thing called fig leafing,
protecting
or genital blocking?
Yeah.
So could I look at that and go, he's blocking down low where the genitals are? Because earlier I said when you're self-conscious,
that could be because he's on camera and
could be.
Yeah.
Or it just could be he's comfortable that way. I didn't see a shift in that position with other things. So I'm not saying it's not, but it's not definitely that. What we do see at some point is a shift. It goes from there to up here. Now, what I like about this one is a few things. It's not just this comfortable there's tension. You'll notice the upper arms are very close to his body. And even when it moves away to gesture, these arms stay here and it quickly comes back. So it's not like he's doing this and he's talking like this.
Yeah.
And then maybe a little later, it's this. Scared, closed, tight. This is vital. This is all vital. So he's very closed in here, there. But again, listen, if I'm talking about an alien, I'm going to be stressed.
Sure.
So is it enough for me to go? And this is something people misunderstood on the initial analysis that I did with this. I had a good friend of mine who he teaches agents how to interrogate. And we were picking at this guy a lot. His story's changing. The fear isn't there on the 911 call. He's very calm and collected, and we're not hearing that fear. But people misunderstand analysis with conclusion. We're not saying that everybody is always scared when they're on the phone. We're just saying it's interesting that there isn't this panic, maybe because English isn't his first language, so he's making sure he speaks calmly. Maybe he's stressed about the idea of an alien. We just point to things that are interesting to us. That's it. At the end of the day, could this guy have seen an alien? Yes. I'm just saying his story seems to have changed. That's a red flag for me. There are certain things that look a little stressed about it, but the stress could be from the fact that he saw an alien. So at the end of the day, people have to understand the analysis is just us talking about stuff. And then at the end, listen, I don't think this guy's completely making up that something happened.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't believe he saw what he saw. That's my personal opinion. just my personal opinion, the vibe I get. Now, again, I can't take that to the bank. Maybe he did.
I think it's embellished.
Yeah, me not believing doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No, because the story has evolved and we saw that evolution. You know, with the other guy, we were saying there are signs of the evolution, but here we saw that evolution. We saw that it's a different story.
What I would like to say is that name me a teenager that doesn't care about TikTok. Name me one teenager that's like, no, TikTok for me, I'm not on it. I don't like it.
I don't want the attention.
I don't want the attention. I've never seen a teenager be more nonchalant when talked about attention.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, we're all teenagers are going to deny that they want attention.
And especially because...
But that just tells me you're lying.
And good point.
You're very comfortable lying on camera.
And the other thing about it is you're telling me that you didn't want the attention or the clout, but how do we know about you?
You also uploaded it to TikTok and YouTube. He's like, yeah, but then, I would upload more videos on TikTok to YouTube. Like, oh, is that what it is?
And here you are on the news all this time later.
Exactly.
So, and again, you could counter all these things saying, well, maybe he just really wants to tell the story. It's important to him. Fine. That people have to understand when I analyze, and now you're analyzing as well, these aren't conclusions. They're just questions and going, this is interesting. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. Well, here's my thing. I think, and I said this in my initial analysis as well, I think he saw something back there. It could have been just a rustling of something or a movement, because even in his initial description, they showed the plan of his backyard. If you look at by his testimony where he was and where this alien was, it wasn't close.
Right. Yeah.
It was far. It was in a tractor, and one around the tractor, one in the tractor was pretty unclear, but it wasn't close at all. When he's talking about here, it seems like he got a pretty damn close look.
Well, it held him, and he's growling now, and it's
which wasn't there at first.
And he's got emotions, and his dad saw it too. So his story is quickly being embellished, and I think all of that is due to the attention he is getting. And I think when you tell a story and realize that you're not adding anything new, you start to see the attention dwindle, and maybe he's afraid of that, so now he's adding things to get more attention. And I can tell you, this guy says he doesn't like social media. When this came out, I saw him on a bunch of lives on TikTok being interviewed by a bunch of people, so I can tell you that straight up this guy's lying.
Okay.
So he's lying about the attention thing. Is he lying about the other things? I don't know, but it leads me to believe that he's definitely not someone who's telling the truth.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
Travis Walton.
This guy, on the other hand, Travis Walton. This is my initiation into aliens. Seeing Fire in the Sky. I must have been like 9 years old. Wild movie to watch. Don't let your 9-year-olds watch that. They'll end up wearing tinfoil hats like myself. I was told when this movie started, hey, based on a true story. D.B. Sweeney played Travis Walton. Incredible movie. They got it all wrong. I'm not even going to get into that. They embellished it and made it horrific, but his story was actually very, very traumatizing. And he's the one guy, one out of maybe 3 people, experiencers, that I, without a doubt, believe that he went through what he said he went through.
Okay.
There's just something in me that's, I don't know, primordial that believes him.
Let's see if the behaviors back that up.
All right. Seeing aliens for the
when
first
I woke
time.
up, I didn't come to very quickly. I was in and out for quite a lot of time. I was in a lot of pain, so it took me a while to kind of gather my thoughts and figure out where I was, which at first I thought was just a hospital. I remembered the incident in the woods eventually, but I thought, maybe I'd just been hurt and they'd taken me to a hospital.
Little squints as he's doing this.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot, and these squints of like it. It's almost like when we're having a hard time recalling something, or even like recalling something unpleasant. We're seeing a lot of these little squints of like he doesn't look like he's having a good time. Like look at him, he doesn't look like he's having a great time telling the story.
Agree.
So he's having these squints of like either it's a hard time to remember or he doesn't love remembering this. Also, we often squint when we impart wisdom on someone, like we give them a lesson, but that usually has this bit of an eye contact. Does that make sense? You kind of impart wisdom. So I don't think it's that squint. I think it's more of a recall, having a bit of a hard time recalling squint.
And the sounds of movement around me, I just went, well, that's the doctors. And, when I finally got where I could focus my eyes and saw them is when I just flipped out because, seeing these things.
So we're flipped out. We're getting this shoulders coming up and the eyebrows. So again, I think those are the eyebrows of surprise. I flipped out. That would make a lot of sense. And the shoulders coming up. Listen, shoulders coming up is a lot of things because it's a shrug. It can be protective, but if it's not, shrugs. The research on shrugs shows that it's a lack of something.
Like I give up.
It could be I don't care. I don't know. I don't blank.
Or like there's nothing I can do.
There's nothing I can do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You know, somebody says something, you just go, I agree. Like, I don't know what to add to that. But it's shrugs are I don't something.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a shrug, maybe incapacity.
We'll go back here a sec. Because I think what he says next is probably the most telling. This is where he pauses for a second after he says, when I saw the beings.
Okay.
And he shudders. He literally shudders.
Yeah.
Them is when I just flipped out because, you know, seeing these things was just a real shock because.
That's heavy, dude.
Look, man, so far, and there's still ways to go, but so far, if this is acting, put this guy in Hollywood movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know? There's nothing I could point to that, like, I don't know, man. Like,
what do you like? Because here you mentioned something when we watched it the first time together. You mentioned that when he shudders,
yeah. So I'm trying.
He's not looking at the interviewer,
right?
He's not looking at the camera. He's not looking at anything.
He's not trying to sell this to you.
He's looking at the face of the alien that he saw.
Right. Let me look at that. So hold on. I'm just trying to consolidate my notes, and I'm trying to go back between this and that. Okay, let's look at that.
Well, that's the doctors. And, you know, when I finally got where I could focus my eyes and saw them is when I just flipped out because, you know, seeing these things was... With that like fear, that's fear. That's fear.
He's seeing them.
Because he's not painting it for us, right?
Just flipped out because, you know, seeing these things.
Yeah, there it is. Like, his eyes are dead for a sec. Yeah. As he's like lost in that memory. Now, let me make something clear. Let me make something very clear. Again, I in no way could speak to the reality of what happened.
Yes.
Only the reality of his own perceived experience. So, as far as that goes, it seems that we're seeing a man who's talking about something that traumatized him. And there isn't this big embellishment, and he's not telling me what I would have seen, and he's not painting this image for me. It doesn't seem particularly pleasant for him. So, could it be that he's completely making this up and he's taking us for a ride? It's possible, but if he is, kudos, give him an Oscar.
Unlikely.
Yeah, behaviorally, it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
But behavior only indicates things. And more so, once again, it doesn't actually tell us whether this happened or not.
Mm-hmm.
Did was there a loose gas pipe in his house and he passed out? And maybe, I don't know. I'm not speaking of truth, but he believes this happened.
Yeah.
And he's still traumatized by it.
And it's just a real shock because, you know, I'd never seen anything like that. And at the same time, I'm having all this pain and this feeling of suffocation, which just kind of gave me
two things. With pain, he kicks back and his eyes open. So again, surprise maybe, or shock at pain.
Like, why am I in pain?
Taken he's back by the pain. But then very quickly, as he's saying suffocation, we see the micro expression of disgust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very fast.
Which works because in the ship, he described the air to be super damp, super humid, and it was like he could barely, it was like so damp and humid he could barely breathe.
Okay, let's be honest here for the viewers.
Yeah.
You never told me that before I saw this footage.
No.
I saw that. I said to you, hey, there's disgust in that moment.
Yes.
And then you told me.
Yes.
This isn't the first time you're telling me.
Yes.
But the first time you told me was after I said that.
Yes.
And we see in that moment because he's saying suffocating. So.
And he's like,
yeah.
Suffocating.
Yeah. So the same way fear and surprise open up because we need to figure out what to do, right? Fear is the state of assessment, and it's the fastest. Fear is fear. So the mouth goes back, eyes open up, it's trying to figure out. Then you either go to somewhere pleasant or unpleasant with it. But surprise, everything opens up. I need intel. Disgust is the opposite of that. I'm shutting everything down because I don't want intel. So everything scrunches. Just remember, disgust, everything goes towards the middle. Eyebrows come down. The mouth, either the bottom lip protrudes because it blocks the odors from coming to ears or nose, or closes, nose scrunches. And in that moment, I said suffocating. We very quickly saw that. in that moment. So
Yep.
there's an, and again, he's not overselling it.
No.
He's not.
Those are
just
micro expressions.
disgusting. Yeah, just disgusting. We didn't see it. It was just this really quick micro expression of disgust.
Kind of gave me a panicky feeling to start with. So that explains a lot of why I reacted to what some people think is so badly. You know, people say, "Oh, I would just remain calm and ask them this question and that question." But I guess everybody has their own approach to things. Maybe they'd be surprised at how they would react. But it was, you know, the things I recall don't really make a tremendous amount of sense by themselves. I was looking for a way out and was eventually taken out by...
Few things. So first of all, oh man, there's so many things I want to say. Okay, so first of all, here that we're getting something that we don't always get, and it's the afterthought. He's talking about afterwards, like how he behaved and how he reacted and how other people would have reacted, and maybe that's not how you would react. You know, you'd be surprised. And in the structure of the way we tell stories, one big discrepancy between truth tellers and liars, often, there's nothing that's always, is the afterthought. Truth tellers will give you the afterthought because it happened. So if I tell you that I was at the drive-thru getting my tea, and then I got blindsided and this car hit me, and then afterwards I'm thinking, where did he come from? Was he there the whole time? Was I distracted? Was I on my phone? I tell you how I processed what happened because I processed what happened. If it didn't happen, I'm so keen on selling you this narrative that after I can't tell you how I thought about something that never happened. So I go, this guy came out of nowhere, he blindsided me, hit my car, I spilled my tea all over myself. I'm freaking out. I get out, I yell at this guy, and then that's it. And then I go to, and then I'm sorry, that's why I was late for work. There isn't an afterthought because it never happened. So again, it's not always the case. But the fact that we're getting this reflection that he had afterwards about it.
He has a lot of that, by the way, in his story. He's always thinks back to, man, maybe I shouldn't have freaked out the way I did. Maybe, you know, because he believes that like what he saw was very traumatizing and terrifying, but then, you know, he reacted in a way that was very visceral and sort of like stronger than him. He couldn't, it just, fear took over and he started screaming and swinging. But, you know, you can tell he's pained by the regret of doing that and not acting maybe the way other people wanted him to act.
And what kind of a liar would actually take the time to sit there and think about this afterthought and then convey that? They wouldn't even know to do that.
You know, it really is the mark of someone who's given this a lot of thought and who's obviously bothered by this.
For example, if we go back to the Las Vegas kid, right? And again, I really don't want to pick on the kid because I do believe that he thinks he experienced something, and no matter what we think, and I don't want to invalidate it if he did, but look at how there was never at any point him saying like, yeah, afterwards, you know, I thought maybe did I leave the ghetto? Did I go check? I went and looked around and I was like, maybe it was some. We don't get that afterthought at any point. No. So it's all about the experience, that moment. I'm selling you this moment. Here we have this afterthought. Another thing, he says that what he's saying doesn't make a lot of sense by themselves. And this is a subtle little hint to people to say, look, but this story on itself doesn't make sense. But go out there and look it up. There's a lot of stuff that backs this up. And that indicates that he believes that there's valid examples or valid evidence out there of more things like this, at least to himself. Because if I don't think there's evidence, I don't encourage you to go to research, right? If I have an opinion that I think isn't really true, I don't go, go research it. It's out there. I go, this is what it is. That's it. That's it. But he's going, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense by themselves, subtly encouraging people, go look, check it out. There's a lot more of this out there.
He's like, I agree with you that this doesn't make that much sense, but
there's more.
I can't change my story.
And also there's more. By themselves, they don't make sense, but there's more stories like this that kind of are similar.
Maybe, yeah.
So look, besides doing what I do, I don't know if I've talked to you a whole lot about this, but for a long time, I practiced therapy. And this is extremely similar to people telling me stories of trauma. Behaviorally.
PTSD.
Yes. Behaviorally, the way he's experiencing, the way he's remembering. So again, all I could say is, to this person, this seems very truthful.
Good enough for me.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do, folks. We got one or two more videos to look at.
This is the last one I have notes on.
That's because we got something. I got a surprise for you. We're going into overtime, but it's going to be on the Patreon. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. And in the Patreon, we're going to go take a look at some Bob Lazar.
No.
Yes. I'm going to have you look at Bob Lazar in the Patreon. Finally, we get Spidey's take on if he thinks Bob Lazar is a true whistleblower. We're going to have definitive answers here in a second. But it's behind a paywall. So $5 a month for half the price of a daily coffee at Starbucks. You can be given hours and hours upon hours of footage, plus secret access to our Discord, which we include movie nights and Q&As and all sorts of lovely things. We got a lot more surprises coming your way on Patreon as well. So patreon.com/Area52Investigations. I want to thank Spidey so much for being here, dude. This has been fun. Absolutely enlightening. Literally, like, I'm super interested in this. This is fascinating to me. So, you know, you doing this with the UFOs, worlds colliding, this made me so happy.
So happy. And we should do this more.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll compile, if we get enough likes on this video and this video does well enough, I'll compile a whole other list that we can go through. Maybe you guys can suggest some as well. What do you think? List below some of the names that you would like Spidey to look over, and maybe we'll do that on his channel, maybe on this channel. We'll figure that out. But thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Spidey, where can we find you?
The Behavioral Arts. That's the YouTube channel where you can find me. And Instagram is Spidey Hypnosis, one word. I'm sure you'll leave some links in the description.
We'll drop it down.
Yeah, so the Behavioral Arts, that's where I look at, you know, current events and things that are going on. A lot of pop culture stuff with celebrities. I don't do politics much because they tend to be so polarizing. But
unless they're looking at UFOs.
Unless they're looking at UFOs. That's fine. That's a different thing because in that context, like, it wasn't political.
Sure, of course.
I'm happy to do things like that, but I don't look at specifically political events. But yeah, pop culture stuff, things in the news, a lot of things like this. So would love to have you guys over. And it's always open conversations, objective conversations, and all opinions are welcome.
Appreciate you, Spidey. Thanks so much, guys. Join us on the Patreon. We're going to look at some Bob Lazar clips. You won't be disappointed. We'll see you there.